Yeah, you. Good evening, everybody, everywhere. This is Spurs Diehards Tottenham Till I Die, and you are tuning in to what may be at least the finalists of the Europa League. We have one foot in the grave, potentially, or are we buzzing like Lightyear, and are we going to go one step beyond? We don't know, but we're here to chat about it. It was a great night last night. We're going to chat about the weekend's game coming up, and we're going to chat about next week a little bit. I have my usual motley crew. Adrian, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I'm fine. I was at the game. It was a really enjoyable game. I'm sure we get into it. I understand there's been a few doom-mongers that a bit disappointed we let the third goal in. All right, it was disappointing, but I'm sure we get. But like, it's a brilliant result. I mean, it is a brilliant result in my opinion.
Good. Mr. Rakdos Madness.
How's it going?
Just aware, we were just chatting in the green room. Everybody be aware there will be a tactical breakdown coming later on. His mask ready. He's got the whiteboard ready. And we're going to see just what it was that made Brennan Johnson score after 30 odd seconds. How you doing this afternoon, man?
I'm doing well. Happy it's Friday. How are you guys doing? How you doing, Drew?
Do you know what? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's been kind of one of those days, a little bit gloomy outside, but I did some more retail therapy. As people may or may not realise, I have a little bit of a problem with ordering things. I think it's more just the box turning up than it is even what's inside the box at this point. But I got a new pair of the Nike versions of whatever their Crocs are. So, you know, I'm happy for 5 minutes. Thank you for asking.
Nice.
I'll order something else again later, and the cycle will continue. Steve Silver over there in Michigan in the mitten. How are you, bud?
Oh, not too bad. You know, it's interesting how everybody's either glass half full, glass half empty, right? So you were just saying how we have 1 foot, 1 foot out of the Europa League. I like to think that we have 1 foot in Bilbao instead of 1 foot, 1 foot into the summer transfer window. I still think there's a lot of good football left in this team. I know it's hard to tell. But that being said, man, it's all about optimism at this point.
It is all about optimism, and I don't know, just all about looking forward. And maybe they've given us a glimpse into the future with the performance last night. If we can do the same again, then we will be in Bilbao. And I guess just quickly we'll touch on it. The likelihood is probably playing them lot up north. What does everyone think about that? I mean, I personally I got to say, I was a little bit shocked. I have subsequently seen the game, or at least seen the first half and some of the second. And I don't want to suggest in any way that United might have been a little bit lucky, but it's not every day your centre-back marauds up the field and somehow puts in a cross that Brennan Johnson fails to do on occasion. I just couldn't believe it. Adrian, what were your thoughts on that quickly? We'll touch on it.
On what? You were talking about Bodo Glimt?
No.
Just the United score.
I see the score. I haven't watched the goals or any video highlights or anything like that. In fact, you guys probably watch a lot more European football than I do. I'm sort of more busy fact finding all the time. I will watch the odd Sky game. I've got my mates Sky Go, and I've got the password for that, and I can stream as well. Actually, I'll watch every Spurs game. But if I'm in the mood for my watching, if not, I mean, I'll go and look at players. This is why a lot of them will be more familiar with foreign players than I am, or talk about them. The only time I go and watch them is usually when the stories gain gravitas, we might be interested with them, and then I'll go and pull the videos up and send them out to you lot and everybody else I send stuff out to, So
I guess mine, it was more morbid curiosity last night, because typically I won't go and really watch. I'll watch highlight packages and things like that. But yeah, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But
they won't look forward to meeting us in the final. We've beaten them 3 times this year.
Exactly. It's going to be 4 times this year, apparently.
Yeah, and if we beat them again, we get to keep them. Yeah.
There you go. Brilliant. Apparently, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you play them. Even in Bilbao, Manchester is white.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. Well, we'll move on to last night's game. Obviously, we did play the mighty Bodo Glimt at the Spurs Stadium, the home of European football. I mean,
the home of European football.
Yeah, I know. I'm just bigging it up as much as I possibly can. It was a fantastic night. I was sat here. I got home early from work, sat and put it on the TV, and I got to say I was a little bit proud. Like that tifo, the way that the supporters got up for it, given how bad the season's been, it almost feels like all of that was put to the side. It feels like it almost feels like the crowd stuck that first goal into the net themselves. Steve, did you get a chance, or have you subsequently seen the game? I know you were at work when it was happening, weren't you?
Yeah, and the remarkable thing is my day actually at work ended right around 2:30. So I actually was in the office watching the entire game while I was at work. Thank you by the way for my employer subsidizing my Tottenham Hotspur obsession. So I do want to thank them for that as well too. But it was interesting, right? Because I came into that one really with not a lot of high expectations, and I think a lot of it leading into the game was, and I was asking this question to everyone, like, what over the last couple of months about this attack gives you so much confidence to believe that they're going to put 3, 4, or 5 past Bodo Glimt, when they have just outside of Southampton, they have shown a lack of focus on the attack. And sure enough, 30 seconds into this game, Brendan Johnson, there he was, doing what Brendan Johnson usually does, which is all of a sudden reappear at the back post, and he is in perfect position to put one in. And I think that was I think that goal was a seminal moment, just considering the frustration of this football club, and the fact that we don't start off fast, and we've have 19 losses in the league this year, and we understand exactly what's going to happen this upcoming Sunday against West Ham. We should already understand exactly how this is going to play out. But at least for one night, all of that gets pushed to the side because we are in a European semifinal. So I was elated. And what was interesting about this match was that for the most part, we conceded possession to Bodo Glimt. But what we were able to do was whenever we got forward, whenever we took our chances, we finished our chances. With the exception of the Romero header that just went a little wide of the post in the second half, and then of course Kulusevski, who put one wide off his right foot. Outside of those two chances, for the most part, it was a well played game from the Tottenham Hotspur, and our leaders actually stepped up and led last night, which was a very beautiful thing to see. Because one of the running commentaries of the season is the fact that this team has no leadership. At least for one night last night, they had leadership in spades last night.
Do you want to say hello to a few, Drew, before we get into the?
I was just about to say hello to everybody in the chat. So just want to say a big shout out to Mr. Blaine Devlin, Mr. Super Spurs TV, Spurs GC TV as well. Glad that you're here as always. Appreciate you doing it once again. Destiny number 5. Mr. Rakdos Madness saying hello to everybody. We got Mr. Stateside Footy saying hello to everybody. We have a Wayne Francois 23. My French is terrible. Just listening to the legend called Carlton Cole. No expectations on Sunday about West Ham. The West Ham World Cup. Cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. Spotlight on Spurs. Big up panel. Luke, how's it going, mate? Good to see you. And then Mr. Rees-Rigg, morning all. And then Phil Coys. Alan, did you get a chance to watch the game?
I did.
Good. Well, initial thought. We're going to go sort of play by play. I'm going to do some minute breakdowns, but kind of just general overall thoughts.
Yeah, overall, I guess going into the game, I was nervous because the hype about the team, the team we were going to play, they made it seem like this was a team that was like a dark horse, and with our inconsistent play, we've got a lot of losses recently. We haven't played well, and so I was very nervous about going up against this team, even at home, because unfortunately, our home performance hasn't been that great either. So
very true.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, again, 38 seconds, and then boom, we're 1-up. And I think it's fun. I took a sigh, and I almost saw some people in the stands. And when I'm looking out at the, people, like it must have been a collective sigh of relief.
Right?
Oh,
we're not on the receiving end of the first goal. Instead, we're scoring it, right?
Exactly, which felt very odd because normally in this season, at least, they score on us, or we have that habit of letting them score. A team of two halves for a long time.
Right.
But I also thought that the lineup was a little wacky.
Yeah, we'll get into that for anyone not
that's a nice way of
the segue. For anyone not actually looking at the screen, obviously the team, we had Vicario, Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero in the centre with Porro on the right. Then you had a kind of almost a double pivot with Bissouma, Bentancur, Maddison playing the 10, and then Richarlison on the left, Solanke down the middle, and Johnson on the right. Wacky being Bissouma, wacky.
And Richarlison, I think, starting where he was.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Bissouma, just it's a little odd, the lineup. He's kind of throwing almost as if he was throwing caution to the wind in some respects, because I think he's pretty much established that Udogie, VDV, Romero, and Porro will be his back four with Vicario and between the sticks.
Arguably on their day, that's a very decent back five, right? That's something to build on for sure.
But Spence amongst them as well.
That's the hill he'll die on with that back five, and that because again, Ange Postecoglou, this game potentially has a very negative effect on his career. So this is kind of like, this is the hill he's going to have to die on, and these are the players that he's going to entrust to keep him employed with Tottenham Hotspur. It was a little weird seeing Richarlison, considering he has Odegaard and Tell at his disposal, and we've seen so little of Richarlison. Even though it seems like when he does come on, we somehow score. But he has Odegaard and Tell. And Odegaard, I thought, didn't get a lot of time. He kind of needs that time. Otherwise, he's going to lose match fitness. And Tell, I thought, looked pretty good when he did come on. So I was a little surprised with Richarlison. But Richarlison headers it over to Johnson, and Johnson puts it in 38 seconds in.
I can't ask for much more than that. Adrian, we'll come over to you, mate. I made the point on another show last night that if you initially, people were a little bit skeptical. Obviously, why is Bissouma playing? We obviously find out that Bergvall is injured. So, it somewhat makes sense. But you look at that team, and it's not too dissimilar other than a couple of names from the team that started really, really well at the very beginning of Ange's tenure. So there is some sort of familiarity to that, right?
Yeah, I in my lineup, which I do for fun, I didn't pick Bissouma or Richarlison. And I actually thought Geki was going to start this game. I really did. I think he won't be playing Sunday. He'll definitely starting Thursday. And I actually thought if Bissouma was not playing, I thought Sarr would come in, or even Gray. But I didn't think Gray, because he hasn't had enough game time to settle into that midfield position yet. Everyone wants to rush him. Listen, we've got other league games he can play in now. Thursday's all important game for us now. But the lineup, when I looked at it, I thought, oh my God, not Bissouma. How many chances do you give a man, right? I mean, like he's like the cat with 10 lives, isn't he? Yeah. But actually, in fairness, I'm sure he played fucking well. You still got to admit, he played well. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, yes, but there were some standout performances. I mean, they all played well though. I mean, like Bodo barely laid a glove on us all game. Yeah, and the atmosphere, I was there. I mean, the atmosphere at that stadium, that's the best atmosphere. I posted your videos of it anyway. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the atmosphere at the stadium.
I watched them.
The best atmosphere since the stadium was open was the Arsenal 3-0 when Sonny's man got sent off. Was it Hull? I forget the Arsenal player's name. Hull. No, I forget his name.
Holding.
Rob Holding.
Oh, Rob Holding.
Yeah. And we'd done them 3-0. And we had the penalty, which is a bit dodgy. Mind you, they always get dodgy ones against us at their ground usually. So, yeah, so it's been the best atmosphere since that. When you're getting a tune out of the West Stand, right?
Yeah.
You know, something's buzzing. And as Kev Clark said, he's a good friend of the show, and I meet him at games anyway with Brad and others, you know, and his son Tom and all that. As he said in one of the chats later, when he said, the fans scored that first goal for us.
Right.
And like, I think the noise in the stadium carried that team forward down there for that first goal.
Yeah.
You could smell an early goal straight away. Not because I wanted a big win, because I had 4-0, 4-1, 5-0, 5-1. But Kev had 3-1. It still almost paid for his ticket. He had a 5-1, 3-1. So, like, yeah.
Big up, Nige. Pure Coys. Big up, mate. Much love. Steve. We'll get your quick thoughts on the lineup. What were your initial?
Yeah, you know, I actually thought it was quite wacky too. Although that is a very nice word to describe the lineup last night. Wacky. I thought it was, you know, batshit bonkers. But you know, the interesting thing about it was the fact that, you know, you're absolutely right about the back five. Like, all things considered, 100% at strength, that is the back five that Ange Postecoglou is always going to roll with. He's always rolled with it, minus the injuries. But, you know, one of the interesting things was, you know, like Adrian, I thought Kulusevski was going to play in this one. Preferably because Ange Postecoglou likes to run with two high tens, with Madison off the left and Kulusevski off the right. And I thought, you know, if they wanted to not look one-dimensional, you know, having Kulusevski playing a little bit higher up as the link up guy between Brennan Johnson and also Pedro Porro, that it made 100% sense. And I understand that his match sharpness is not 100%. I fully understand it. But that being said, it's a watered down Bodo Glimt side. In this first leg, and like there was any opportunity just to kind of give them some run with the first team, this was a perfect opportunity. But apparently, you know, Ange was not feeling it prior to it. Okay, fine. I just think Rodrigo Betancourt as that, you know, hybrid 6'8", is far better than anything what Yves Bissouma can give this team. Now, I said it last night that I actually thought at certain points in the game, Yves Bissouma actually played pretty well. Overall, I wasn't necessarily 100% impressed with his play. But that being said, under the context of a very important game, he didn't throw up on himself like we've grown accustomed to see. But the strange one, Drew and Adrian, and the strange one was Richarlison on the left, because how Ange Postecoglou likes his wingers to hug the touchline, it really takes away from Richarlison's strengths, because he's just typically just not a winger. And in isolation, he was actually badly burned a whole bunch of times down that left-hand side, to a point where, Ange Postecoglou mentioned at halftime that he was taken off because of tactically. It's like, yeah, no shit. No shit, he was taken off the field because he wasn't necessarily providing the things that, you expect to him, especially if you have a guy like Richarlison. He's almost kind of like an inside forward, so you got to play him on and let him run and, let him use his attributes. And, the one time that happened, he wasn't exactly Speedy Gonzalez down that left-hand side. As a matter of fact, that Bodo defender caught up to him, and instead of trying to cut inside, he tried to put a shot on net. It gets blocked, goes out for a corner. So as soon as Matisse Tell came on, that left-hand side became a little bit more dangerous, and it begs the question of whether or not Matisse Tell probably should have started that match to begin with. And you can pick and choose when you want to bring on Richarlison if you're hunting that fourth, potentially fifth goal. It probably would have been a little bit beneficial for the Spurs attack if that happened. But that being said, as far as striker and right wing, I think I tend to agree with you, Drew, where prior to that, with everybody wondering why Brendan Johnson was in that lineup. But that being said, he's also our leading scorer. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard justifying leaving your leading scorer off your starting 11 in one of the biggest games of the season. And sure enough, he came good within the first 30 seconds. Maybe not so much after that. But that being said, he certainly got the show started very quickly. So
yeah. I made a point on Irish Hotspur yesterday because me and Jack, big up Jack, were talking about it, and he was frustrated at Johnson. He couldn't understand why Johnson was starting. And I said, my response to that was, well, I get where you're coming from, but take the name away. Are you dropping your top scorer for arguably one of your most important nights when you know there are times when he can get it done? And there's the argument that he doesn't get it done on the big occasions. But I mean, I think his return has been pretty good this year. So for the sake of, I don't know, I just don't see a scenario where you drop your leading scorer. If he's there, if he's ready, if you've seen him in training and he looks hungry, then I say, as hungry as Brendan Johnson could look, I suppose. But we'll get on to we'll sort of do the minute by minute. And another thing that I kind of brought up with the just with the lineup yesterday, my interpretation of why Richarlison was on there was to try and take advantage of the fact that they were a little bit depleted. As soon as I saw the lineup, I didn't necessarily think it was going to be a 4-4-2, but I thought that with Solanke and Richarlison both being in the box, potentially occupying centre-backs, and I think at least one of them being their second choice centre-back, I thought it was a case of them giving them more to think about than they thought that they were going to have to think about. Yes, he's clunky on the left, but he has played there before. He's not played there in a while for us, but he has played there. And my initial thought was, I said this on Irish Hotspur, my thought was, we're going to get the ball to Porro. Porro's just going to bang balls in the box. And then you're going to have Basuma Bentancur kind of pressing. We're going to win the ball high. And it's just going to be a case of the two strikers are just going to be a nuisance. And the first 30 seconds, I thought I had it bang on. But then it obviously transpired that we ended up kind of sitting off a little bit, letting them have more of the ball and playing it actually a little bit more tactically. But we go in, obviously the game starts, we got the Porro cross, Richarlison header, Johnson scores. And another thing that I happen to mention, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, because I think it says a lot that we're doing sort of a minute by minute breakdown, and we've gone from 1 essentially to then 34. And I think we actually scored too soon. And the reason that I say that is because I think if we'd have had 2 or 3 minutes, in 4 or 5 minutes of getting something resembling some sort of pattern of play, and we were banging balls in the box and winning it back and recycling it, I can kind of see us getting into a rhythm and then scoring, and then you carry on that rhythm and that momentum. We hadn't even got into a rhythm. We score. And I think I saw subconsciously them already go, oh, shit, we've got something to lose here. After 30 seconds, they were already like, oh, well, they were excited, but now they were a little bit hesitant. So I don't know what your thoughts are now. I'll start with you, Adrian, obviously, because you were there and you obviously are a good gauge of the atmosphere. Is there anything to be said in that it kind of almost was like, well, this is awesome, but then for a minute, it almost looked like they had to sort of regroup and compose themselves because they had yet to find their rhythm and they were conscious of already losing something.
I wonder if the atmosphere got to them. I think it would. It would get to a lot of teams. That noise yesterday was pretty phenomenal. And the Richarlison thing, the guy sitting next to me is going, oh, they should really take him off half time. I said, they probably will anyway. I said, because it's just, it was even later on after the goal, which he played a part in, didn't he, the looping header, and then like, our tapping top goal scorer comes in and scores with his header,
right,
header right in there, which is good. And he has the knack of being in the right place. He's got a striker's instinct, Johnson. I have warmed to him. Want to see more work rate out of him, like we all do. But he hasn't been with us a couple of seasons. He's going to be here for a good few seasons more. So, and if we got a different manager, he maybe played, a bit more inside rather than wide. But Richarlison, he looked rusty to me yesterday with his touch. That's because he needs the game time. See, unfortunately for Ange, we'd reached a tipping point where no way he was going to improve this season before even the injured players come back. And then fans that want to bash Ange and that, fair enough. We've all critiqued him as well. They're expecting all these players to come back and hit the ground running. Well, that can happen, but it doesn't always happen, does it? But Richie, I thought Richarlison was rusty yesterday. He did some good things. Times he ran into trouble and he gave the ball. There's a couple of times he could have got his shot off a bit earlier. I thought if he had been at his sharpest, because he's always had that bit of pace, and you're right. It's definitely tactical playing him out there because of his physicality as well, right? To get in amongst them, and not only that, like you've half alluded to anyway, we're going to get crosses into the box. You then got Richie and Solanke in there, and they know how to get on the end balls, and they've got an hour mark 2. There instead of 1, and they'll move like so. Yeah, I wasn't happy to see Richarlison going off because I just thought you look too ring rusty. But the goal, well, I don't know. I mean, like, is it ever too early to score a goal? If you're sitting in there, if you're a nervous fan, it's never too early to score a goal.
I mean, I'm certainly not complaining. I just think it sort of caught a couple of people off guard, and it was a little bit sort of an unexpected surprise. And it took him a minute to kind of get back to the pace of it.
And he was so on top. It wasn't really. It's like saying when I did these little minute banners that I do, even looking through the reports and all that, we had lots of good progression in getting up their end of the field because they only had 1 shot in the first half against us, and that wasn't until the 95th minute. Yeah. So there was so much good play in between, The second half, we even let them have a fair proportion of the ball. We sort of game managed it better, really,
Well, Alan, obviously, we get up to that 34th minute, and Porro again, Maddison with wonderful control, and about the only place he could have hit it and scuffed it was where he hit it and scuffed it, and actually managed to sort of bounce it over the defender's leg, and it went in. So a little bit lucky, but we probably deserve a little bit of luck this season, don't we?
We deserve a lot of luck. We really do, because we've had so little of it.
Do we though? Do we deserve a lot of luck?
On paper, I feel like our players perform better statistically than they do in the game. And, at least for some of them, we have players that people want. We got Romero, who seems to be 1 foot out the door because everybody wants him. We a lot of good players. We're just not performing. I think that's what it is. You could have the best players. I've watched Real Madrid against Arsenal, and Real Madrid were just awful. And they've got, a better team. And they were horrible against Arsenal. So it's really not so much the players. It's just we're not performing. Yeah. So we need.
I completely agree. Premier League, we've been a bit awful, but isn't the shining light kind of performances in the Europa League?
Oh my gosh, the fact that we played really well. Up to that point, it felt like it was pretty much just all Spurs. Pedro Porro was having a great game. Again, I still don't think he did very well in his position. I think he's like, it's kind of like Gareth Bale, you move him up. That's kind of how I feel like he's that kind of player who would succeed up front. But he did very well. And Maddison, luckily, I guess it was lucky that he did scuff it, right? Because if he hadn't scuffed it, it's possible he would have blocked. So
correct.
It was good. It really good. And it was nice being 2 up. I'm not used to us being 2 up that early.
I know, right? 2 up and flowing, and then 38 minutes, the Bentancur volley, which is one of those volleys that you just he couldn't have hit it any better. You wish it had gone in, and then all of a sudden you're just absolutely laughing. But great save from Hiking. Steve, what are your thoughts on this bad boy? Looks like he certainly put his wrist through it.
Yeah, it hurt.
For sure. Yeah, as a matter of fact, physios came off, and for a second I thought Hiken had broken his wrist or something like that. I was like, God damn, how powerful was that shot? it's interesting because over the last couple of matches, Betancourt has found himself in very advantageous positions to not only get his head on the ball, but also be incredibly goal dangerous. So, big up to his positioning and understanding exactly where he needs to be spacing wise to get a good shot on net. And I actually thought as soon as he hit this one, it went in. I was actually prematurely celebrating until I saw, a big hand go up, and I was like,
yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Because he's been so close over the course of the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think it was 2 matches ago, and it might have been either the first leg or the second leg versus Frankfurt. Actually, both of them, really, where he had one fly right over the crossbar, and then I think it was in the second one he had a couple more opportunities again over the crossbar. Like, he's been super close to scoring, and I thought this was one as the ball had Karen backwards, and there he was right at the top of the box, and he put one on. And it was a perfect location too, right there in the top left-hand corner. I was just like, ooh, that's nice. And all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, there was a big hand. I was just, ooh, he's so unlucky, man. It's interesting because for as much as people want to talk about slinking even goals, but this is also a guy who Betancourt who's put in the effort. And you talk about unlucky. Who deserves some luck? It's Rodrigo Betancourt, because he's actually done himself such a good good spell of form where he's been in all the right places, all at the right times, especially in the attack, and he's just come up empty when it comes to goals. And I thought this was the one, man.
Good. And then Blomberg on the 40. Oh, are you sure? Was this VDV? I thought he got in front of Bentancur,
It might have been. I just remembered Vicario yelling at VDV afterwards. So maybe VDV could have been in a different position.
I think it was just a general being
the
just
replay
fuming at everybody, right?
Yeah.
The replay from behind Blomberg as he was shooting, and you see the ball go in, and it looks like it literally ricochets off of VDV's shin. That's why, last night, Drew, I was saying that it was a deflection off of VDV, not Betancourt, because it really does look like the ball takes a huge carom right off of VDV's shin. So
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, either way, he was absolutely fuming. And I like that. I think that, obviously Vic has had his fair share of troubles the last few weeks. But the fact that he was on that and just barking at everybody to keep their heads, because unfortunately that's one of those things where we get into that sort of time frame in games and everybody's mind seems to be on the lemons in the dressing room. And, I think as the old saying goes. So it's one of those things we really, really need to tighten up in those portions of the game. So then obviously halftime comes, we got the tell for Richarlison, and obviously tactical. Richarlison's not played 90 minutes for God knows how long. And I think the game was somewhat starting to maybe open up as well, giving Tell obviously the opportunity. But then I'm not entirely sure that we took advantage of that opportunity. It felt very much, and here's the thing, right? This isn't a criticism. This is just an observation that, when it's all gung ho and we're always 100 mile an hour, foot down, everyone going for it, there's screams and calls that Ange needs to be a bit more pragmatic and he needs to, reel it in a little bit, and we need to manage games a little better. So then we get to a position last night, for example, where I feel like, and this is me, I wanted us to come out second half, and I kind of wanted us to go out. I thought they were there for the taking. I felt like we could go out and get another couple of goals and then kind of, sit back a little bit. But it seems like they came out and it was sort of very tactical, and they were almost waiting for Bodo to come onto them, and then almost playing some sort of, a version of some sort of counter-attack. Steve, is that?
Yeah, what was interesting. I like you. I actually thought we would see a little bit more high tempo, high pressure from Spurs, especially with Matisse Tell coming into the game. And you saw the way that Madison was pulling the strings, not only in the build-up but also in the counter. And for whatever reason, right around the I'm going to say right right as the second half, it almost feels like they let their foot off the gas, only to reclaim it, 10, 15 minutes later, when Romero, I think that was when Romero pulls down for the, for the penalty that allows Slinky to score that third goal. But as soon as that third goal happened, they completely took their foot off the gas. Like it was something that was a little disconcerting. So not only did they again start the second half a little what's the word I'm looking for?
Tepid.
Yeah, that's a good word. Tepid. Yeah. So not only did they start the second half a little tepid, for whatever reason, they just decided to be not just a little way pragmatic, because they were trying to protect a 2-goal lead a little too much, just being a little bit more used to just coming out on the counter instead of actually taking matters in their own hands. Because I agree with you. I think that Bodo was there for the taking, to not just extend the lead to 3, but also putting in forward 5 and completely putting that second leg to bed. As it ended up being was as soon as Madison and Solanke came off, I really felt like this team literally took their foot off the gas, and as a result, they get one back, and it was a sluggish finish to what I considered a very good game.
Yeah. Adrian, what was the feelings in the stadium at the half when they came back out?
Well, we all wanted more goals, and then you're waiting to see how we're going to set up for the second half, because you see it in so many Premier League games now. When a team gets 2-goal leads, then some of them they don't know whether to stick or twist. It's easier to concede a goal than it is to score the next one. Mm-hmm. So they then tend to sit back. And when you get a high-scoring game, it's not usually because the team that's got the first couple of goals goes on and scores 3 or 4 or 5. It's when they do have them attacks going forward or them set pieces, they get goals that they're trying to score, obviously, but and if they happen, they end up with a big scoreline. It happens more by not luck, really, but in a way, not by a real sheer effort. Not by sheer effort. It happens. I mean, when you looked at, I kept thinking, yes, he's sitting in. The second half, in line with the goal line anyway. I kept thinking we're going to score from one of these corners in a minute because we had so many of them, right? You know what I mean? Right. But it didn't happen.
Exactly.
But a lot of block shots in the penalty area, though. And and I just thought, on another day, and we've seen it all before. It's like we should have run out 5 or 6. We've seen it in so many games recently. When your luck's out, these things go against you. It's them little dinky passes that are either slightly underhit or slightly overhit that aren't finding their man, that might be the one that goes through, and you go straight through the other team and score. We went through, even though we went through them like a dose of salts almost that game. I was surprised one of their players never even got sent off. Because I thought, this looks like they just can't cope. And then we sort of, like you said, there was a period we think there's a couple of periods in the second half where we sort of sat back and just let them have the ball. And if you notice, they were playing the ball around the back, out the back, loads of passes like we normally do, and it infuriates our fans, right?
Yeah.
And because there's a big crowd there yesterday, they weren't going to let the team get away with that, and that's why you didn't see much of it, although Vicario does give you some unnerving moments with his distribution. It's either too late or he just doesn't look, but that can be coached. He'll be better for it. So I agree. We went for a couple of periods. It's even if it's not that you're controlling the game so much now, if you lose momentum, the Perriman saying once you start losing and take your foot off your gas, if something goes wrong, you can see the goal. It's very hard to build that momentum again.
Yeah. So it's really hard. It's hard to start running back uphill.
Yeah.
What I mean? Yeah. So it's 61 minutes. We do end up getting that third one, penalty. Pretty stonewall penalty. And then Solanke steps up, scores. The one thing I really, really liked about this is that Maddison had the ball, and Maddison was taking all of the flack from all of the players from Bodo, just completely just lapping it up. And then as soon as they were all ready, hands the ball off to Solanke, who just puts it down and scores. And I thought that was pretty clever. Alan, what your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. It looked cool. I think, again, Maddison is one of those kind of players. He's like a bit of a shithouse. He likes the controversy, and he kind of thrives on it. And so it's good. And the penalty itself was great. Again, it's the second time I've seen him take a penalty, and both times he does the no look fake out kind of thing, head one way, kick in the other. Mm-hmm. But and to his credit, he just walks right up. He didn't even give us time to be nervous. He just kind of walked right up and kicked the ball. So he's very confident. Makes me feel good, because I'm used to Harry Kane taking our penalties, and not really worrying too much because
right.
Statistically, Harry Kane puts the ball in the net more than he doesn't, by quite a margin.
by a wide margin, yeah.
Sure. So we're kind of in that limbo point where I don't know who we can and can't trust. Sonny's not there. Even Sonny, Sonny does pretty well with and I think he's done well this year. But I don't know that he's the guy. And I don't know that we have that yet. Who's the guy that's going to be taking the shots, like we used to do for Harry Kane. But great penalty. And being 3 up, my gosh, what a strange feeling. Not used to it. I bet it was crazy in the stadium, Adrian, after that third goal.
Yeah, I mean, it was vibrant all throughout. I think you don't get that feeling of I don't know, pessimism at all during a game when it's so noisy and so loud. People are singing non-stop all throughout the game, and sort of that stops them thinking about anything negative at all. And it was a very enjoyable game to watch. Mm-hmm. Them scoring just took the edge off it, but we're in a brilliant position.
Absolutely.
Well, but I was going to say, though, I mean, that whole penalty was set up because of Christian Romero's IQ, understanding where he was at, who he was going up against, and exactly what he was going to need to come down, to get a whistle. That was actually just a brilliant piece of work by Christian Romero. Just, that's, we could talk about Slinky's penalty all you want, but that doesn't happen without the IQ of Christian Romero, understanding exactly, what he's going to do in order to get that whistle. I thought it was just a brilliant piece of work.
And I think I need to correct myself as well, because I think me and you were talking last night, Steve, about that, and I think we gave Porro props for the ball to Romero to make like a hat trick of chances, essentially. But I think the ball that that Romero received was actually from Maddison. Someone said to me today. So either way, great to be in that position, and nice for VAR to go in our go our way for once. Then we had, unfortunately, obviously Maddison pulls up with a bit of an issue, and he comes off right away, which is one nice thing, because usually we have our players stand up and run around for another 2 or 3 minutes only to go down again. So it's nice that he was just off straight away. If you feel something you don't feel right, just go and get it taken care of. Kulusevski came on, and I'll just touch on this because I again, not trying to call anybody out, and I'm not.
Don't do it.
He's been out for a little while.
He looked rusty.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Drew. Don't say it.
Didn't look himself. It didn't look right. He looked super slow. He did one of those turns. And I think he's still turning now, still waiting for him to finish, honestly.
How dare you disrespect the king?
I know. I love Kulusevski. I think he's an absolutely fantastic player. And maybe we'll touch on this afterwards, because I think this is a bit of an issue for me, that not only do we have a plethora of injuries, when our players come back, it just seems to take them an age to come back. It doesn't seem like, they're out for a few weeks, they come back, couple of games, hit the ground running. Even that seems generous as I'm saying it out loud. It almost seems like, Solanke, 4, 5, 6 games to really get back up to speed. Even last night, he still didn't look like the player that he looked before the injury. Maddison last season took him an age to come back. I don't know. Obviously we've been nursing VDV. It's kind of understandable. Romero took a while, a lot longer than everybody thought. So much so that he ended up he ended up talking to people. And there's, the argument that he was putting out there, thanks to the Argentina medical staff, as a bit of throwing a bit of shade on Tottenham, but I mean, I don't know. That might just be an opinion. It might just be a bad take. But anyway, we'll break down through these last few minutes, and when we've got some other talking points and stuff. So
you brought up a good point,
minutes.
Though. You did bring up a great point about the medical. I'd be curious to see.
Well, if anyone, feel free, just touch on that.
Well, I'd be curious to see what the statistics are for similar injuries on other players. If it's a hamstring injury or a knee injury or whatever, how long it takes other teams to rehab that player, just to get some averages, because I don't know at all.
Yeah.
I think
it
of
would be
American
interesting
football,
to see it'd be interesting to see if that's out there.
I think
are like 3 times as heavy, and they do their knee or whatever, but then it seems like a couple weeks they're right back at it as if it was nothing. I know we could be rehabbing our players better. We're just not. And that's why I want to get like a baseline. How long, on average, does it take for a player, regardless of with Arsenal or whoever, what's the average, and where does Spurs rate on that? Because it's a problem. I think it's been a problem for a while. Our players always take long.
I think it's I was going to say, I think it's a difference between position of need and a position of depth, right? The reason why Solanke and Maddison come straight back into the starting 11 is because who else is going to play there? And especially with Solanke when Richarlison was still out, and we had Matisse Tell, who's probably a little bit better off on the left, right? So Solanke has to come straight back into the 11 and just hit the ground running. Same thing with Maddison as well too, because he's really the only true number 10 on this roster. With a guy like Kulusevski, who's kind of a 10, kind of an 8, kind of a right winger, you have Papsar, you have Lucas Bergvall, you have Brendan Johnson, Odegaard. You have other options where you could actually nurse a dude like Kulusevski. And the downside of that is it's going to take him longer to get back to sharpness, to be 100% match sharpness, right? But that is I guess that's a trade-off for Ange Postecoglou, because he has other options where he can gradually get him back in and get him back to a full 90. Whereas it's going to it's kind of an interesting dichotomy, really, when you think about it, because for as much as run out as Solanke and Maddison have, it's interesting how long it takes, and maybe it's just up to the player. You know what I mean? Some players are able to come back and hit the ground running and still be able to contribute right away, and some take longer than others. But that being said, I do think with this Spurs team, it is a balance between position of need and a position of depth. Which is why they're wrapping Van de Ven and Romero up in cotton. It seems like every other weekend.
Yeah.
Well, I think this goes back quite a while for me, because having watched the team play for decades, I mean, players used to take 5 or 6 games to get back in their strides decades ago.
Yeah,
and that was when the game was much slower than it is today, and now it's flat. So you've got to come on. 1, you might be a bit worried about it getting injured. 2, that rustiness as well. You got the rustiness, but you also got the speed of thought as well. The game's fast. You watch these Premier League games at more pitch level, where I'm at an elevated level, and I get more of like a plain view looking down on the stadium where I'm up that high anyway, which I like, because I can see patterns and things. But yeah, I think the pace of the game, I think this is going to keep happening now, and especially with it seems to be that a year. 2 years, every 2 years, you've got a World Cup or a Euros as well, where players aren't getting no rest. And they'll look, capitalism will put you through the grinder. It will squeeze as much money out of sport as it can, right? Yeah. So this will go on. The only solution I see eventually, I mean, it's in the Europa League, for those listening that don't know, you are actually allowed 12 substitutes on the bench to choose from. I suppose you get the normal 5 and 2 concussion substitutes. It should be as many concussion substitutes as possible. Yeah. One day you'll get an unlucky collision and 3 will go down from your team or something, and then you're playing with a player short. So that should just be an unwritten rule. And I actually think that also there'll be a nightmare for owners in that squads will have to be numbers will have to be raised from 25 to 30.
Right.
Because then you've got the extra players to come. I mean, you're supposed to give us a product that we can watch, and you want to see good football as well.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? If you're not going to, there comes a breaking point, right? So if you're not going to lessen the amount of games, then you have to up the amount of players that teams can use and can register, because you obviously want the quality to remain the same. I mean, I think we're all we can all testify that this year's been an absolute shower of shit in terms of the quality of watching football, because for the most part, 7, 8, 10, 12 of our first team quality players have been out, and it's looked like chewed spit sometimes. I mean, it's looked so disjointed, we haven't had a clue. And again, you point out, Adrian, if it's not a World Cup, it's a Euros. If it's not a Euros, it's a Nations League. I mean, when are these guys supposed to actually get a chance to, recuperate? 2-3 weeks in the summer, and then they're back at it again. I mean, it's like,
and that's after a grueling Premier League season. There isn't a tougher league out,
right, where you're expected to be absolutely 8s, 9s, and 10s. Otherwise, you don't win the league, right? It's come to a point that if you're not absolutely at the very, very tip top, you can lose the chance of winning the Premier League within the first 8 games.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like Alan alluded to science. I mean, I mentioned this before. That we're all like pretty well convinced that this fast-paced game is what's causing a lot of these injuries. We need the science behind it. We need to know how many hamstrings, how many knees, how many ankles, thighs, quadriceps or whatever. But when and we've seen it, because we know there's something to this, because when Poch was first in charge of Southampton, they didn't have the wealth of Spurs, but they played a high press. They come out Christmas time, they got a few injuries. They don't have a big squad like other teams, then they fell away. When Poch was with us, when he changed, and he got rid of 35, 36 players in 5.5 seasons, but when he was in charge of us, we were the youngest side in the Premier League. And we finished in second, third, and third. But after about 3 seasons, Kane and Sonny were picking up these injuries. You high press and press people down, you're going to get kicks in the ankle and things like that. So you had that, and then your players are getting older, so maybe their bodies, they need that rest that you've alluded to, Drew. They need that rest, and then we've not just seen it with Spurs. It happened with Klopp at Liverpool. His players started getting injured. They didn't win nothing the first 2 seasons, beat us in the Champions League final. Then suddenly they're picking up these injuries to key players. Look what's happened to Man City with their press game as well. Rodri out, and all the others, and De Bruyne. How many times was De Bruyne injured and out? And you're seeing it with the teams that play this high press. If you play counter-attacking football, I bet those teams pick up less injuries. But I don't know that for sure. I mean, I just think it alludes to that. But so I think.
Sput, just harmless potato, says don't think like stats like that exist, at least not publicly. It would be hard or unfair to compare anyways, because true diagnosis may be different from what they tell us. And that's an absolutely fair point. I'm wondering if there may be just a way, because obviously you do kind of hear if it's a hamstring, and you obviously hamstrings, there's grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Sometimes they mention it, sometimes they don't. So I don't know whether that's just a club decision, whether that's whether it's just open information, because you can go on, is it transfer marked or something, where they will list out the injuries and kind of give you a general. So although I take that point completely, I'm wondering if you could maybe just do like a general overview, but then maybe a general overview is not enough, because you actually need to get into the nitty gritty of the numbers. And then also mentions as well, and I think this obviously precludes to the amount of games and stuff and just the competitions, is because at least 3 football bodies compete for a piece of the cake. FIFA, UEFA, and the FA, they all want more games because they all want more money, and that's a very, very good point.
Right, and you can understand why. I was going to say, and to this point, you can understand why Spurs struggled to start the 1920 season, coming off the heels of like four straight seasons of Champions League football, plus a World Cup and a couple of Euros thrown in the mix there. You just don't have time to. You don't have time.
Spurs of old, when they used to train, they used to play a lot of 5-a-side football, right? That's why it was always a good pass inside. But you can't do that now with a game every 3 days. Players aren't hardly training at all. So obviously they can maintain their levels of fitness. Whether they do some running, a bit of running here and there, I don't know what exactly they do at the training ground. You're not going to be shown what they're doing tactically, are you? When the press aren't either while they're there. So but they just. Even Anne just said, when everyone was going on about the club and all this and injuries, it's all this. He came out loud and said, look, we don't do, we don't go hell for leather in training. We used to hear about the double sessions with the Marine, wasn't he, under Conte, Yeah, I mean, they were doing them then, but that was pre-season out in Korea and stuff like that. I don't know what they did during the season with Conte or Mourinho. Oh, Mourinho was the one. I couldn't believe what he came out with and said, I leave it to the players to look after their own fitness. What madness is that? You've got to be in control of the situation. Remember him? He actually said that. Oh, players, because when he was trying to get Endon belly fit and things like that, But and I thought, and he actually came out and said that. And then you think, well, he's won all these trophies, and maybe he's just lucky where he was to have really dedicated players that train.
I'm sure there's insurance companies for that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's wrap this up real quick. So, because we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole and got off a little track a little bit. 73 minutes. Romero blocks Haig. He was going to get booked. I mean, it was a little bit stupid, but I do like the passion. 75 minutes. Odegaard for Solanke because Solanke pulled up. Rumor has it today that it's not too bad. Probably won't play on Sunday. But I think he'll travel with the squad to face Bodo up in Norway next week. Adrian, because you're probably the best gauge of what happened here. Obviously, Saltner shoots, the ball deflects off of Bentancur. Vicario gets stranded. I personally think he moved a little bit too early. Goal with Bodo Glimt's first effort on target. How much did that sap out of the life of the stadium? Is it as big as they're making it out?
I still thought we're going to go and get another goal. I know it's the 83rd minute, but we were playing. We played that well, and again, this very unforgiving football. I mean, you lose concentration or whatever that happens, and when you get a deflected goal, they always make the goalkeeper look like idiots anyway, because there's usually nothing the goalkeeper can do. You can say upwards, well, why is he in a better position and all that, but are you going to anticipate a deflected shot and where the ball's going to go? No, I mean, that's when you use your instinct and your agility if you can. But there wasn't much Vicario could do about this. I mean,
fair enough.
I just thought the defense kind of broke down a bit. They had so little of the shots on goal. Did they even have a shot on goal up to that point? Maybe one.
There was the one that went over in the first half that Vicario was crazy at. So, not on target, but it was, any sort of striker worth his salt probably puts that away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so anyway, go on.
And this is right down the other end of the pitch for me because I'm at the south stand end, right up higher.
Right.
So as for the deflection, you see it and you see the ball go and you're not quite sure. It's like when we scream at our end for throw-ins and free kicks. I mean, we've not got the referee's line of sight at our end. When it's down our end, the penalty, I went penalty to the guy next to me straight away. That's a penalty. And then the only hesitation then was it took a little bit of while. It took a couple of minutes before it even go to VAR and all that. Maybe they weren't sure and they were having a look. As soon as they called the referee to the screen, he's going to give it.
Oh, yeah, he's going to give it.
How many people don't? The only referee I know hasn't given one or disallowed the goal was when we had Laurenti away at Man City. And the ball did it touch his arm or roll down his arm or not? And the referee went, I got them to sort that one out. And he went, nah.
Well, Steve, we'll come over to you for the last one because this involves your boy again. 90 plus 5, Kulusevski. I think he did something in shot wide, apparently. I don't quite remember this one. I do remember him picking up a ball on the right-hand side of the 18-yard box and blasting it into a Bodo defender, which I was very disappointed with. As I say, I love him. I think he's fantastic. I'm giving him a hard time because I regard him so highly. He did have, obviously, a foot issue because he was wearing a boot. So I understand these things take time. But will you at least concede that he's looking a little leggy?
How dare you? How dare you, sir? Yeah, no, of course. And you're absolutely right. His first opportunity, he was played into the box, got into his preferred foot, his left foot, and then you're wondering whether that touch is going to still remain the same. Of course, he didn't necessarily get a good curl on that left foot, and it almost looked like he blasted the balls of the Bodo defender right there. But and it was 5 minutes into stoppage time there. He's actually well positioned in the box, except the ball's on the wrong side of his body, so he's got to swivel a little bit. So he gets onto his least preferred foot, his right foot, and that shot goes wide. I don't necessarily know he even got he actually got a good positioning on that ball right there. It just looked like it was almost half-assed as he turned right there. But that being said, it's like, yeah, as much as I hold Kulusevski in as high regard, even I have to admit that, his sharpness right now is hovering somewhere right around like the 60, 65, 70% mark right now. And I think all of that's going to come in due time as we get closer to the end of the season. If we do happen to get into a final, I like to think that by that final, Kulusevski is going to be somewhat close to his old self. But that being said, it all depends on what the status is. As far as how he's going to be used between now and then. Is this going to be a situation where maybe Kulusevski is going to get a start this upcoming weekend against West Ham? And it would make a lot of sense, and especially if he's going to be used as a sub, up above the the Arctic Circle there come Thursday. Mm-hmm. This would probably be a good opportunity for him to at least get the first 45 against the Hammers, maybe even extend it to 60. But that being said, it's like, Kulusevski, when this team is 100% at full strength, Kulusevski's a part of the starting 11. And I just personally believe that his sharpness is going to come with more minutes. But I would have to agree that his two attempts were Sunday club football, level type of.
Drew wins. That's it. End of the show. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, man.
Adrian.
Hey, man. Lay off the king. Lay off the king. You'll get there.
I know. Adrian, we've been going an hour. We got 56 people joining us on multiple platforms on this Friday night show. Do you want to give the channel a plug?
Yeah, as usual, we always thank people that give us their time and come on the show or listen to us or even actually view us. So, and a big up to all those that watch us on playback as well, that bother make the time. We do have other platforms. I mean, this show does go out live on XCOM. It goes out on our Facebook page. And we've also got a Facebook group, which has got 14,500 members in it. And there's about 3,000 active, 3,500 active each month. Pretty good. Pity we can't get them all to come over here. I've asked loads and loads and loads of times. But I guess some people just don't want to use certain forms of social media because it does get toxic out there, doesn't it? And they don't want to listen to it. So I get that as well. Yeah, but big thanks to you. And although there's 56 of you, if any of you 56 haven't yet subscribed to the channel, because that does help the algorithms, as it does if you leave a comment or, or give the videos a thumbs up. It only takes a second to get over to YouTube and subscribe to the group, to our Spurs group, Spurs Diehards. So if you could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. And once again, big thanks to you all for tuning in and giving us your support. You're on mute, Drew.
You're on mute, Drew. You're on mute. And just to reiterate, very much appreciate everybody in the chat over on YouTube as well. Do remember to smash the like button and double check your subscriptions. And it is always a pleasure to have you guys on. We've done the minute-by-minute breakdown. We are just going to quickly touch on the man of the match. Steve and I came to the conclusion that it was, in our minds, probably Porro last night, although Maddison was, I think, highly up there or at least second on the list. Am I right in saying that, Steve? We did both agree on that.
Yeah, for me, it came down between either Maddison or Bodo, but I gave the edge to Porro just because of the tenacity.
And actually, I've not done Basuma justice by not putting him on this list. I'd give every player a 7, but these 5, I'd give them an 8. Yeah. Maddison, for that finish, I'd give him a 9. I would give it to Maddison. I mean, it might have been scuffed, but he meant it. And he could have hit it on the inside of the goalkeeper. And that's what I think the goalkeeper was like caught in headlights, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. He didn't know if he was going to hit it on the inside, hit him across. Maddison knew what was doing. That was such good ball control when he brought that ball down. Imagine Werner was receiving that ball right. We'd still be looking for it in the high road, you know what I mean? So it was a great finish. And Maddison's got he's a fantastically skilled player.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen with Pedro Porro's 60-yard dime down the field. I mean, that was good vision. That was good upfield vision. And it wasn't, that first cross, you could say that maybe it was a little errant and it was only for Richarlison's header to Brendan Johnson. But that second goal, it doesn't happen without an absolute dime of a 60-yard
fellow admin EMS says, when Bentancur plays well, we play well. And I just thought him and Basuma, they bossed the midfield yesterday.
They bossed it. And I thought Destiny did a very good job again.
Yeah.
But
I gave it to sorry, go on, Steve.
Yeah, I gave it to Pedro Porro, not just for his attacking prowess, it's the fact of his defensive responsibilities. Knowing he has Brendan Johnson playing ahead of him, not only was he able to get forward, but he also played a little bit higher up defensively, still being able to get back on the balls over the top, but also to eat up space so Brendan Johnson doesn't become a liability. And believe it or not, Brendan Johnson outside of the goal was sitting there ball watching when they were pressing, and so Pedro Porro actually had to sustain 2 different roles last night, and I just thought his performance was worthy of man of the match, 100%.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like you say, you could have put Basuma in there. Your doggy looked good. I mean, but no player was less than a 7.
I actually gave Brendan Johnson a 6. And I gave somebody else a 6 as well if I was giving them numbers. Alan, what do you think?
I gave Basuma a 6 too.
That must be the air in America's doing that to you.
Yeah.
It looked like Vicario, I could say maybe had a 5 because he didn't have a lot to do because they didn't have a lot of shots on goal.
Right.
And when he did have something to do, again, as Adrian kind of pointed out.
But you don't want him to have a lot to do.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why I gave Romero and Van de Ven such high ratings as well too, is because quite frankly, Vicario had nothing to do for much of that match, and a lot of that has to do with the the ability of those 2 center backs sitting right in front of them. So
then we still have an issue though, don't we? I still got an issue with movement when Romero's on the ball. And sometimes he moves the ball slowly, but I've got the plan view from my seat and no runners. Everyone. Why when players used to move into space? And what about not always passing the ball to the player, but passing it into space? You used to see that a lot more in the old days than where like the player would run onto it because it's very hard for defenders then. So yeah, I'd like to see more movement. Even in the middle and even at the front 3, more movement. But we know that, look, we've seen it with Johnson and all that. I mean, and we've all critiqued him for, work rate, his lack of work rate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's obviously a tactic and he's told to stay out there. It obviously is because, other managers wouldn't tolerate that from a striker or a wide player. Everyone has to contribute during a game. You can't just stand about. And it looks like that way. It looks that way with him at times, doesn't it? I mean, it
really does.
I think we're going to see more from him. He's a natural finisher. He's not a tapping merchant. He's destroyed that myth. 5 goals last year, and this year he's got 17 and 3 assists, right? So yeah, but he's not. So I'm expecting him to up his game, and as he's been critiqued for not scoring against the big teams like Kulu does, even Saar does. He's got 6 goals this season, but I think that will come if he finds the right positions against the right teams, then it will come. So,
all right, we'll just go over the stats quickly. The possession stats: 58% to 42. Is that?
That's for Bodo.
Yeah, that is for Bodo, isn't it? Yeah, but we had 24. We had 24 shots to their 3. It was 7 on target to their 1. Block shots, we had 9 to their 1.
I will check that because
he's going and double checking that. Shots
no, because of that. It's because if you take the stats straight after a game when you're on one line football or other stats, the next day you look, they've changed a couple of them, so they can make you a bit of a monkey, right? So.
Well, clearances 15 to 19, interceptions 7 to 10, and crosses obviously 25 to 6.
It's also worth noting, Drew, that Spurs had 48 touches in the opposition box last night. Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yes,
that's a monster number.
Does a penalty kick? Is a penalty kick considered a shot on target?
I believe. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still giving Bodo the 58% possession and 42% to Spurs. On the eye test at the stadium, if it was that, I'm surprised. I'm surprised, but
it looked like that. It looked like that for a
It looked like that to me. We just, I just don't think they were doing anything with it. I think we did a really good job of for nullifying for the most part. I think Alistair Gold on his video on YouTube earlier on, he mentioned that even though we had less possession, it felt like we completely controlled the game, and I can't.
Well, when you look at the shots
disagree,
inside
really.
the box, 20. You look at the shots inside the box, 20-3, and look corners. This is what I was saying. I'm surprised. I was expecting us to score from one of these, and surely one of these is going to come in the right place for us. Right?
You would think so. I mean, with 25 corners, man. I mean, what you got to do to put one of those on target? I mean,
could it just be that we're just not a good set piecing team? I was going to say, could it just be that we're just not that great of a set piece taking team?
Right.
I mean, 25 crosses. You would think that the laws of average would say at least one of those would get headed in. That's something.
It's a bit shocking. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're just going to go over previewing the wet spam game quickly. The West Ham World Cup, as they call it.
Classico.
The El Crapico.
There you go, El Crapico. That's what it's called. I call it Shit Classico.
I think there's going to be more change than there was for Fulham. No one changed 8 players for this game. There's no way Kulu's going to start. One, you won't risk him because you're not sure about Maddison's knees. So Maddison's not starting. That's 2. Solanke's not starting. That's 3. Right? Bentancur's not starting. That's 4.
Bergvall is out.
Bergvall's out.
Yeah. So them 4 are definitely
not starting.
I mean, I see Richarlison playing as the number 9 in this game, and you may see Tellenobert start, and like either side of
I think we'll see. If you
Romero starts, right? Romero starts, doesn't he?
Yeah, with centre backs, I think he's still going to go. I think he'll go Denso and Davies. They're all right at the back. I think he'll rest Romero and VDV as well. That's 6. You know, one of the fullbacks ain't playing, whether it's Udogie, Spence, or Porro won't play. Porro won't play. That's 7, right? And you could see Kinksky in goal for this one. That could be 8. 8 changes.
I don't think we'll see Kinksky. I don't think we'll see Kinksky.
Could end up with a very dull midfield of Sarr, Gray, and Basuma. You could play Gray there, give him another bit of experience in there. I know it's dull. It's very dull, but you're away at West Ham anyway, and no one will give. I mean, London pride's at stake, but apart from that, we don't give a shit about that. I mean, like we don't take it as seriously as they do, and we usually come away there with something. I think most of us take a point and just go on to Thursday.
I would say, can't we just take a mulligan and just walk away? Save our guys.
Listen, it won't matter what the result is. Should they celebrate a cup win against us, like it's their cup final, their games against us, West Ham, then fans are not going to go on a meltdown now. With 4 league games left, you've got 2 Brighton and Villa and Palace to go after them. I mean, so fans ain't going to give a shit. We can't get relegated or nothing like that. We just want the best team we can put out against Bodo, and Kulu has to come in because he just stiffens the side anyway. Even if he's underperforming, he just stayed back and just hung onto the ball. But that'll be interesting to pick the lineup against Kulu against them though, because
you know what's interesting? I remember at the beginning of the season, we were talking about predictions for the rest of the season, and a lot of people said they'd take 17th and a Europa League win. But I think a lot of those same people are they're not saying the same thing anymore. But in the end, it may very well be that we will wind up 17th and winning Europa League. But
I mean, we may even find that Mikey Moore gets a run out. At least West Ham.
I was Adrian. I was just going to say, because a lot of people, it went unnoticed, but Mikey Moore was in that match day squad against Bodo Glimt.
Yes,
he was on that bench. But let's just understand exactly how this team treats the Premier League at this point of the season. They essentially treat it like friendlies. I mean, when you look at the performance versus Wolves, Forest, and then against Liverpool, it was obvious that this team had been looking forward to to the first leg in the semifinal against Bodo Glimt. And again, it's going to be the exact same. It's going to be the exact same mentality this weekend as well, too. Knowing that that second leg is just around the corner, and knowing you're absolutely right. And just we saw eight changes against Liverpool. We'll probably see the exact same. We'll probably see the exact same thing against West Ham as well too. I completely agree with that back four. I can easily see Spence, Danso, and Davis. I still think Vicario goes out there, but for me, I actually think that Kulusevski's probably going to start this game, because if Maddison's not going to be out there, you have to have some semblance of creativity out there, and at the very least, even a 60% sharp Kulusevski is going to be better than Pap Sarr. For this squad as far as playing at the 10 position, but I could see a Basuma, Archie Gray, Kulusevski midfield with Richarlison up top, and then potentially Matisse Tell on the left and Odegaard on the right, but you also have Mikey Moore, who's probably going to get some run in this game as well too. 100%. Like, this is going to be 100%. This is going to be the El Crapico. Because the question is whether or not this team is going to take it seriously. And judging by the last 3 Premier League matches, not only did they not take it seriously, they looked like they couldn't even be bothered on Sunday. So I don't have much expectations against West Ham. That being said, like most of these players, we're all just looking forward to that second leg in Bodo.
Yeah,
it sucks. It sucks having a team that doesn't care about the Premier League, but we are where we are.
I think certain people care. I just don't think that we shouldn't be risking our players at this point in the Premier League. That more than anything, whether we win or lose, I just don't want to risk the players that could help us in Europa League.
Yeah.
No,
that's fair enough. I just really want us to, I just think this is obviously, it's been a disappointing season, and it's just glaringly obvious that the squad isn't capable of fighting on the 4 fronts that they were attempting to fight on. So I just hope we can learn from it. I hope the players are a little bit more resilient for it. I hope we can get, some business done in the summer and we can go again. And I just hope, because at some point, the really, really good teams fight really, really strong on at least 2, sometimes 3 fronts. And I know we're not near that yet. Like, I'm not that delusional. It's going to take a minute, but I really, really want us to, start prioritizing a few key areas in the squad, get some clever business done, and, just make this an anomaly, because at the moment it's a crazy, crazy anomaly. And not only, I know it may be a tough ask, but I'd like to think that we can just get this over and done with, and next year I want, at the very least top 8 and another good cup run. And
the Premier League have got to get their finger out by doing what they do in Europe and giving their teams like a week's break before a game, because we get into a final, and the Friday before the final looks like it's going to be Man United. They've got a game. Right. So to the next Wednesday, they would have 2 extra days of rest on us, because at the moment we're due to play Villa away on the Sunday. Right? This isn't right. Now, I know what Angel will do, and all our fan base will go, right, fine, throw all the kids in. Fine, go to Villa, lose 6-8-0, whatever it is. But where that's wrong, morally wrong, is if Villa need to beat us to get a Champions League spot or a European place, or it affects other teams around them because we're playing a weakened team. To me, that's the integrity of the game going down the fucking pan, right? So, I mean, and I don't like it, because, I think, the league should always say, I mean, what difference does it make if the season finishes a week later, even when you've got extra fixtures, or 2 weeks later? If you can, suspend the transfer window, have a gap in the middle to suit Chelsea and Man City because they're playing in a World Club Championship, right? You can help our teams out that are challenging for finals, because this is what brings money into the game, into sponsors and everything else into the game, right? From abroad. So Premier League, if you are pound notes, if the pound note is your god, as has been alluded to, then you'd think, well, you want British teams winning trophies in Europe. It looks like we could clean up in this Europa League format. English teams could win it it's not going to be often we're going to not be in a final you know, the way things are set up now with no Champions League teams coming down into it. Right. So, I mean, I don't know what your take is on this with this fixture congestion and moving games to suit teams, you know.
Every league in the world does it, Adrian. For big finals, whether it's their domestic cup or whether it's European finals, regardless if it's Serie A, the Bundesliga, La Liga, Ligue 1. These leagues make it a point to change fixtures around because they actually want the spotlight on their team that is competing in that final. 100%. Every other, and I would assume that the Premier League is going to do it if Manchester United and Tottenham are the two teams playing in it. At that point, knowing that it's going to be an all Premier League final, you would expect the Premier League to do right by both of these teams and make it actually just about those two teams instead of having a situation where we have a game 2 days before a final. Makes absolutely no sense. We've been stitched up
so many times before. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, do you remember when the Arsenal game? They only had one person with COVID, so their game got cancelled.
Oh, yeah.
We had 5 at one time. We couldn't get our game cancelled, right? And then when they brought the fixture in, where'd they put it? Next to fucking Liverpool, when we were playing Liverpool as well. So we spanked Arsenal 3-0, right? And then, I mean, like, why couldn't you? I mean, this was like Sky and everyone else, right? To me, it's like putting a block on us finishing as high as we can in the league. I forget where we finished in that league that year anyway, right? But I thought, this is out of order. This is out of order. You know, and you knew they were going to put it midweek and crown it. And then you get a situation where you're playing like 4 games in 12 days because other games have been cancelled. Extend the season a week or whatever, or extend it 2 weeks even. Play them games later. Oh, but every game's got to finish at the same time. Yeah, I get that. If it affects promotion and relegation, I get that. If it doesn't, you know, then like I don't see why it should, you know. Unless it affects Europe, then you do. But there are ways around this. There are more fairer ways of doing it. I mean,
I'll be honest with you. I've wanted this for years, and I know it probably is. I don't know, maybe not a good take, because it's probably one of our most likely avenues of a cup. But I think Premier League teams should be able to opt out. All the Premier League should opt out of the Carabao Cup. I think that should be championship down. I think too many games. I think if you lessen the load, you get better quality and you wouldn't get the congestion like this because you'd be able to use, you know, some of the weekends that you put, early January, at least a couple of the fixtures that would be Carabao Cup fixtures could be FA Cup weekends instead. I don't know. There's a way of doing it.
It's not really worth
and that's not to diminish the Carabao Cup. It's just that, you know, I'm pretty sure we're the only domestic league that has 2 domestic cups, and I just don't, you know, it's just a cash grab.
I don't know if we get much money. Do we get much money from Carabao?
No. I mean, I think it's like 3 million. And we didn't enter it. I think us and Man City didn't go for it in 1970. When we went in 71, we won it. We won it. But I mean, yeah. So it's fixed congestion. Then you find that when a team is out of a competition, they save a few games, got a space. Oh, the team will fly to do weather warming in Dubai and earn £1 million playing a fucking exhibition game or some crap like that. Mm-hmm. There's no end to the greed, is there? There's no end to it.
I think the Carabao Cup winner gets $3 million. And
that's nothing to sniff at, right? That keeps the academy over.
If you're a championship team or a League One team and you make a run, that's huge money for those teams. And I think the FA Cup is $5 million in a Europa League spot. But that being said, it's the FA Cup has been around forever and a day. But the question is, will Spurs fans be happy not competing in a competition where they could potentially win a trophy? Considering the trophy cabinet is bare.
It'd be interesting to see out of Chelsea and Man City if they pick up any injuries in this World Club Championship that's going to be played at the end of this season.
I don't think they're going to be. That's the thing. Is the question is Pep going to even play his starters? That's the question. Really, are they going to take it seriously?
Well, there's a lot of money involved if you win it. I think you get about 90 mil.
It's a big cash grab.
Yeah. Big old cash thing. So I think this is trying to be their new crown jewel, isn't it? So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, Yeah, we touched on obviously the West Ham and the predicted lineup. I mean, Adrian, you said this, bound to be a lot of changes. I think we're all in agreement that's probably the best way. Just wrap everybody in cotton wool, just go for Thursday, go to Norway, get out alive, and then live to fight another day. So with that in mind, I mean, unless anyone, you want to run, you pretty much, I think, have gone through all the players we think is going to play. I mean, obviously, Vicario's probably going to be in goal. They'll switch out the centre-backs.
Do we think Kingsley will play? If he doesn't play, they'll play in the later games. Fair enough.
I don't think so.
With the fullbacks, you're not playing Porro, so it looks like Spence and Udogie will play. Is everybody sort of in agreement with that?
I think so, probably.
And look,
I think Spence gets 90. I mean, it might be Spence and Udogie get 90, or it'll be one of those things where, Spence gets 90, Udogie gets 60, 70, and then Spence goes over to the left, and Porro comes on for 20. I guess it depends what the game's looking like, right?
He's not. I don't think he's going to risk VDV against West Ham or Romero. I know, like with centre backs, they do the least amount of running. I mean, VDV might be called up and do some of his famous sprints in a while, but you as a centre back, you don't cover.
Well, I can see him playing. I can see Romero playing just because if I'm Romero. I mean, am I satisfied playing one? I mean, maybe he's happy with it. Maybe he's just got his feet up and he's like, yeah, one game a week. All I got to do is show up in the European games, win this thing, and then hasta luego. But if I'm Romero, I'm a top centre back. I want to play 2 games a week. Like, I want to show up for West Ham. I want to lead the team. Like, as I mind with that. That's right?
You're not. Yeah, you're not wrong, Drew. I mean, a lot of these guys pride themselves on being able to play play week in and week out, and also play a hard 90. But that being said, it's like the way I look at it is Ange Postecoglou is in such a precarious situation, understanding that this, they are so close to chasing down this cup. They're gonna do whatever they can to make sure that their best players are going to be available for that cup run, and not just some one-off against West Ham at the end of the last season.
If he was to play Scarlett, that'd be Richarlison sitting out as well. And if you played Mikey Moore as well, that would be 10 changes. That would be 10, right? Listen, it wouldn't bother me, but because Thursday's our season, I don't know. Although the midfield three I picked is a bit Basuma, Gray, and Basuma, Gray, and Sarr. It's
not much creativity there, is there?
There's not much. There's any creativity there. You could play Mikey Moore as the 10, but
you could see Reguilon even.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Ooh, and my boy Timo.
What in the hell? Regulon Timo left-hand side? You got to be having a
mate. But here's come on now. He's Timo's making 165K a week. 165K a week on this team. Yeah.
So we could, in theory, we could have 11 changes. We could have.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Big up, Audio. Scarlett ? I think he might actually be injured. I understand he was sitting with the guys that were injured last night, and I think Ali Gold mentioned it on his show earlier on that he's got a knock. And then, what do we think of just quickly, Mr. Fokoff? Big up. Romero doesn't seem motivated for the Premier League. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair.
Oh,
he's such a quality player. He is such a quality player. I mean, in my opinion, he's the best defender we've got by a country mile. And I know VDV's last, but those players. He's great in his own way, Romero. But all his overall stats would slaughter VDV apart from on pace. And don't get me wrong, I love VDV, but he's still developing. We're a very young side that's still developing in lots of positions, and then we added even more youngsters to the side that was developing. So bringing enough oven-ready players. Solanke was the only oven-ready player we brought in the summer. So yeah.
Look at it. Just a harmless potato. Big up, mate. US 30 million for participating, $1 billion prize pot for the 32 clubs, and the winner walks away with 125 plus million. Crikey.
I'm surprised. Daniel Levy would have been all over that if he could.
They're making a statement with that prize pot. I think, if you ask me, that's basically like, hey, Super League, over here, Super League.
Super League.
But we shall see. We shall see. My understanding is Premier League
a lot of
teams
money,
have signed a bit of paper.
I thought
my understanding is
90
Premier
mil.
League have said Premier League clubs have signed paperwork and they're not allowed to leave the Premier League or they'll get sued up the wazoo. So but it's a heck of a lot of money for clubs. But then I guess still, if you win 125 million, doesn't necessarily mean, well, I suppose it does mean you can spend it because it's Manchester City. They spend what they like. All right, well, let's move on because I'm interested to see what you guys think, because news dropped this morning that Mr. Paratici could well be returning to the club. It appears that a deal has been done. I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on it and ask what people thought that meant for the Mun-Langer axis at the club. I think there's the general consensus that Vinny is going to come in. Obviously, he's already signed his deal. The Don comes in, Mun and Langer go, and then you have Ange reporting to Paratici, reporting to Vinny. Is my understanding. So please, anybody forgive me or correct me if that's wrong. We'll start with you, Steve. What do you think?
I think it's actually a brilliant piece of work ahead of the transfer window. The last thing you want is instability going into your a vital transfer window. I know that some people have claimed this as being a sliding doors moment, and the one thing you don't want to do is have two guys responsible for a transfer window that can't necessarily sell Tottenham Hotspur or the rebuild to experienced senior players, even if there is Champions League on deck. I don't think there is any. Expectation that both Mun and Langer is going to be able to add to this core. With a guy like Paratici, he has connections not just in Italy and Spain, but he also has a scouting network around the world with very good relationship with agents. And knowing that there's a potential Champions League on deck, not only is it going to be beneficial for the players that are on the roster, but it actually means that there's going to be an actual transfer strategy. The reason why I like this is because it actually gives this club direction and actually a plan to move forward. And it almost feels like Paratici is going to be able to pick up where he left off. I think this is a seminal moment for this club. It almost feels like since he left, there really hasn't been. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if there was a plan. Obviously, they wanted to get younger, but that being said, it didn't seem like they had a clear-cut direction on how they wanted to get younger. They just wanted to, they wanted to cut the wage sheet, and so going young is certainly one way to do it. But that being said, when you look at the job that Paratici did before with the streamlining the academy, but also his ability to find hidden gems in Italy and then turning around and actually building a core to this club. I just think that it's a good piece of business of Daniel Levy allowing Paratici to come back in and finish the job, getting this team to where they absolutely need to be. As far as Mun has already been rumored to leave the club anyways, and with Johan Lang, there's no way those two are going to be able to work together. So there's a good possibility that Lang's going to be the next guy out. But the real question is whether or not Ange Postecoglou is going to be here next year, Europa League win or not. There was rumor that Paratici didn't want Ange Postecoglou to begin with, way back when he was hired. And so I don't think that, coming into a situation where there is Champions League on deck, there's going to be a lot of confidence in a guy who no disrespect, has lost 19 times in the Premier League, Europa League or not. So I would probably assume that Vinny and Paratici are just going to clean house, and rightfully so, because Paratici is going to want to work with his own people that he can absolutely trust. and that includes his manager as well too. So I think this is actually a sliding doors moment. And if they do win Europa League, that's going to be a very good jumping off point for this crew. But I think most importantly, it's for the players that are here that not only want to get paid but also want to see ambition. You're actually going to get a guy who is going to not only be creative in the transfer window, but he's actually going to match that ambition of some of what some of these players actually desire for their club career.
Fair play. Alan, I know you've got to head out in about 5 minutes, so you want to? We'll get your thoughts on this before you've got to go.
Yeah, I agree with what Steve was saying, and just to kind of add, I'm not sure that Johan Lange and Scott Munn should have even come to the club. Like, I don't see what the benefit was to having them. I didn't recognize anything that Scott Munn did. We never really even heard about him. And I think whatever recruitment Johan Lange has done, I just don't think he has the network. You know, we showed a lot of loyalty to Fabio Paratici when he was going through his legal troubles. And I thought that this was, we kind of hitched ourselves to him, you know, the devil, you know. And from what I heard, there might still be, I heard a rumor that they still kind of want to go after him, you know, back in Italy.
Yeah, the Italian courts, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so, but in the end, he gets to the results. I think overall, I trust Fabio Paratici far more than I do Johanna Lang. And again, we've kind of ridden with him for quite a while, you know, through the roughest times. Why would, as he's getting towards maybe the end of those legal troubles, why would we suddenly divorce from him when we stayed with him when no one else wanted him? So I just feel like he was the right person, and I think it was just he went through legal troubles and he's found a way past them. So, you know, I think he's done a lot of good for the club.
Does this?
I'm not sure about having an Arsenal.
Does this mean that
the guy from Arsenal?
Does this mean that Ange stays next season then? Because, right, if Paratici's ban is not up to the end of June, if he wants to bring his own man in, he can't be involved in any negotiations to bring his own man in or anyone in.
Yeah,
so it's great. I want Paratici back, but I also then think, how does that affect our transfer window? And as Paratici works in the background with someone, right? But they'll certainly put the connection between Paratici and anyone in Italy anyway. If something happens, so does it mean that the club will bring in Paratici back on board, and that we then, mind you, the transfer window, when's it shut? It usually goes into the first couple of weeks of the season, 11 weeks long usually, isn't it, roughly?
Was it like the second week of September or something?
Yeah, so if he came in July, but then you see that means we're going late in the transfer window again. Unless Levy
not necessarily.
Look, we can get Cardoso for 20 mil. We could sell him for 30 tomorrow. So get him in. Angel Gomez is on a free. Jonathan David's on a free. There's quite a few players on a free. There's quite a few out there with 1 year left on their contract. I don't see us going out and spending £60 million on a player unless it was a really good quality number 9, and there just aren't many of them out there. So I mean,
well, I heard that Paratici couldn't start work until July 1st. That would be his official first day back with the club. But that doesn't mean he can't lay the groundwork lay the foundation for a summer transfer window prior to that. So as soon as he steps in, he can actually make his first official piece of business and get the bulk of that foundation laid prior to training camp starting in August. So. It almost certainly would be a tight window. But that being said, I mean, if he could have these deals agreed upon prior to him actually stepping into his first day as the director of football, that being said, I would just assume that come that first day, all the people that he's going to bring along will come along with him on that first day, will be appointed that first day, 100%.
Do you think if Paratici comes in, we get Xavi or Motta, who got a sacked at Juventus?
I think they're all in play.
I would love
to. I think they're all in play. 100%. It's the question is which one of those guys actually fits the current roster as is right now. right? So a bulk of this roster is young. So you're gonna want to go with a coach that knows how to get the best out of young players and also gets them to able to punch above their head a little bit, but also knows how to treat senior players the right way.
Is it in the budget to fire him though, Ange? At this point, if we have to sell to buy, is it even in the budget to pay him off or whatever?
Because I think his contract. I mean, he's not on a huge amount of money like Mourinho or Conte was,
right?
So I think it's So I think it would be like 5 mil, maybe the remainder of the it would probably be the third year and a deal on the fourth, maybe because it's +1, right?
Levy's small.
It's a 3+1.
Probably have to give us 5 million leave.
So it's a 3+1, and to be honest with you, that's the reason why I think Ange was able to stick throughout this year, even though most coaches would have been fired. It's because after that second year, the buyout for him goes to basically minimum money.
We're going to say goodbye to Alan. I know he's got to get off because he's got family stuff. So just want to give you a little plug on the channel at Team Tottenham Go. You got anything coming up over there?
Yeah, I am in the middle of editing my video, kind of my thoughts on Ange, and Sonny again is kind of our team captain, and a look back at the whole season, where I did that early in the season. I did one in the middle of the season. Now I'm doing one at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Awesome. Well, Alan, thank you very much always for coming along.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you giving up your time. Give it a plug at Team Tottenham Go. Everybody in the chat should get over there and subscribe and take a look at the videos. And we will see you next week, Sam.
Sounds good.
All right.
Come on,
awesome.
you Spurs.
Take care. Come on, you Spurs. We're going to continue the show for a little bit. Obviously, just continuing or touching on the Paratici. Obviously, I'm from a personal standpoint. I think it's good for the club. I think that it was a pivot to the whole, the Langer thing and the Scott Munn thing. I think was in parts. I think it was in part because they had to do something because of the Paratici stuff that was going down. Unfortunately, it's not worked out to quite the levels that we hoped it would. And I'm in full agreement with Steve. I think him coming back shows intent, shows a pathway. And we can only hope. Yeah, exactly. Shows some ambition. So with that, obviously, as Adrian's alluded to in this banner here, the transfer rumours grow. There's an argument. I mean, on the one side, there's people saying you got Stefan Borson on TalkSport saying that even though we're lucrative, even though we're pulling in lots of profits, as far as being cash rich, we're not. Adrian, I'll start with you on this because I know you've got a list of players that could potentially generate, upwards of maybe, let's say, 120, 150 million. I know that would include the likes of a Romero sale. Whether you're going to get 60, 70 million for Romero is yet to be seen.
We keep him,
exactly. Let me just add to the question. With Paratici coming back, do you think there's more of a likelihood he's able to persuade the likes of Romero, hey, look, just give me another season, let me cook for a minute, and let me show you that I can get this club back to, proving to you that it can challenge for something that, that you'll be happy to be here, and I can turn those harp-shaped eyes off of Madrid.
Yeah, it'll be easier if we've already won the Europa League and we've got Champions League football next season. If we're not, he said he wants to try out another league. He has only got 2 years on his contract. If they can't convince him to sign and give him, top wages, then you sell him. But it's got to be for the right price. You ain't getting him off our club if you don't leave his asking price. And he's then stuck with his 2-year contract, and he's got to see it out. And by that time, he still wouldn't be too old at 30 or 31, even whatever he would be then, to have another few years at the top anyway. Yeah. But I'd rather we kept him, but they're not getting him. I think the rumor is that they've offered about 45 mil at the moment, or whatever.
I think they basically offered what we bought him for.
Yeah, I mean that's not happening. I mean, the transfer market's still in a period of deflation from COVID. Clubs have lost all that gate revenue. They're still recovering.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got always get the European clubs pleading poverty. When you want one of their players, suddenly like they want 50, 60, 70, 80 million for them and things like that, or 100 million, something like that. So there are bargains to be had out there. To me, it's not the price tag. It's the quality of the player. Yeah. If you like the player. Absolutely. I mean, you do get a lot of fans that say, oh, we only paid 15 mil for him. He must be crap. Well, not necessarily. Wait and see what you've got for your money. We should have, even if you kept Romero, I mean, like I say, Richarlison's a number 9. There aren't many number 9s out there. Need a number 9. Calvert-Lewin's going, won't sign a contract. We know there's teams in the Premier League that lose number 9. I mean, Matey from Bournemouth or Brentford, the ex-Arsenal Man United player.
Jamie Vardy.
You are Ollie Watkins.
No.
Ivan Toney.
No, the ex-Arsenal nippy player. He's about 35 at Western. I can't remember his name. He's still playing. He's keeping Evan Ferguson out of that team. And he did score against us with a header, didn't he, when they done
with Brighton.
Danny Welbeck.
Yeah, so and you got players like that. I mean, Fulham could do with a proper number 9, Palace probably as well, so there are markets for him. And people saying I'll be lucky to get 15, 20 Richarlison. I think you'll get your 30 mil from easy, 30, 35. Everton will pay that.
You get rid of Richarlison. You just said there's a death of strike. Who'd you get in?
Well, I assume that, and then you've got to look at our youngsters as well. And
I guess also this really depends.
Lancashire's going to come in. I would have thought with Logi Velez, you ain't going to get nothing from. He's done nothing in Spain because he hasn't got the game time. So the only thing you can do
doesn't all hinge on whether we qualify for Champions League or not, right? I mean, this is a big turning point as to whether this club can actually get over the line, win the trophy, and qualify. Because if you don't qualify, then there's no Europe at all. And I just think there's a big Y-shaped incision in this road, which could go one way or the other, right?
Yeah, and it blocks the pathway of youngsters without Europe, without them 8 games guaranteed in that competition. So that's another issue. But so I think you'd get your 30, 35 mil for Richarlison. Where can you buy a striker for that these days? Right, you'd get more if you went to Saudi. Then you've got Basuma. You're going to get 25 mil from easy. Palace will play that tomorrow. I know he's going to the last year. That's 60 mil, isn't it?
But if he pulls his socks up and he plays like he did last night all the time, like if he can actually show that he can start being consistent, then you've got a player.
We fall in this trap every time. Suddenly a player's been awful, not been able to prove they're consistent, has a good game, and now all the love for him returns, and now we should keep him. Has he done it? Let's see how he does. How much time he gets to the end of the season. Otherwise, this is the problem we've had at this club. We're getting too emotional with players, right?
Yeah.
And I get it with Ben Davies. He's been at the club 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I've seen him pull those performances out once in a blue moon, and you just got to think to yourself, there is something there, and you just wonder because I mean, there's all fate. When we did get him from Brighton, and when he was at Brighton, he was doing bits, and I wonder if he's obviously come. He had the issue with the balloons, which is all obviously terrible, but if he can get his head down, that you have seen. The reason I ask is because you have seen the potential of what he can do in a game. Yeah. So if you can somehow, and maybe it's just too late. Maybe you're right, Adrian. Like he's had his opportunities and he's not shown it now. So why Drew is he going to show it?
The other issue we have, if he stays, right, then you've got Gray's looking for a spot in midfield with Kulu, Bentancur, Maddison, Sarr, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got 6 midfielders. Plus, we're thinking of bringing in a holding midfielder like a Cardasso. If we get him, we get him. if Paratici comes to me, he might get Fratesi or someone else who I'd prefer, actually. But I just think Cardasso's too good a bargain to turn down. Then like,
Well, an audio makes a good point here. We got that Irish lad.
Mason Melia, but we've got Lancashire. We've got Lancashire as well, who's not getting the game time at West Brom, is he? I think it's at West Brom.
Well, no, but he's not done so well up there when he has played either. So.
And then so you've got this. Well, it's very important. We
should. And then Farkov says, do 17th placed Premier League teams get top money for their players?
Well, the difference now, until a few years ago, like he's right, Farkov there, but we've actually got players that have not got an enormous value, but they've got value to put money in the transfer fund, like Richarlison and Basuma. You're going to get 8.5 mil for Højbjerg this year because Marseille couldn't pay it before. Probably about 5 or 10 mil for Gil, right? Same again, 16. So you're looking at 70 odd mil there, whether we qualify for Europe or not. 70 odd mil, you could put 15 mil down on 4 players and still have 15 mil left to start paying wages. I mean, it's not like you pay all the money up in one lump, you pay it over 5 years. It's amortized, isn't it? So,
didn't Brian have a season-ending injury?
Yeah, he did. He's out.
So how is he? So he's not getting sold this summer, is he? If he's recovering,
no, he either goes out on loan again, or he's sold, or the club buy him knowing he's injured. They like the player. They want to negotiate down really from 8.5 mil or something. Well, no. I mean,
but this is a Spurs team that it really isn't known for the profit of player sales outside of some of these big names. You look at this last summer window, most of these guys left on loans with options to buy. When you look at the transfer business of needing to sell players to raise cash, this is certainly not a team that has put a lot of eggs in those baskets over the years. But what I will say is that, when I look at the financials of this team, and Adrian, you're absolutely right. Most of these transfer fees and player, and player salaries are amortized over the course of the length of the deal, which gives this team flexibility to maneuver in the transfer market because not everything is all upfront at one time. And when you look at the club debt, which is like 835 million pounds, all of that is on low interest, 3% or less interest. And most of these profit payments aren't going to start until 2045 to begin with anyways. Right. So, the number looks big, but that being said, that number looks big, but that, there's no rush for Spurs to actually make payments on it yet to service that debt. So the question that I have for you is what we heard about these financials. Is that a smoke screen to prepare fans that it's not going to be the window that they necessarily think, and set them up for something where it's going to be like free transfers? Like you mentioned, Jonathan David, you mentioned Gomez, Jonathan Tah from Bayern Munich is going to be on a free. There's actually, this is the first year that I've seen in a while where the free transfer market is actually is set up better for Spurs than they would be on, when they would have to, to pay transfer fees to get a guy in. That's the question that I really want to know is, do you guys think that from what we heard over the last couple of days, that is all this talk a smokescreen to prepare the fans for something less than a stellar transfer, summer transfer market, using debt to player ratio to prepare us for a less than stellar transfer market.
Yeah, there will be money there for transfers. I mean,
because I don't buy this. I don't buy the whole. We need to be. I don't buy that. We need to be sellers. We need to be sellers to be buyers. Like me personally, I think it's a fugazi.
Yeah, we don't. Look, we haven't really been sellers since 2017, really. I mean, like Walker went then in 2012 and 2013. Bale and Modric went. But we knew that Eriksen was going, and we got 16 mil for him with 6 months of his contract. It was a good deal. We knew Kane was going. I said we should have kept him because if he'd got his Champions League, would have got the money back for him. So, but we knew Kane was going, and he'd served us, so that wasn't a problem. But you can't fault Levy when he gets rid of Skip and Winks for 20 mil a piece. Gets about 20 mil odd for Bergwijn, and like he's getting bits and pieces for these other players as well, So and I think. If Atletico Madrid think they're going to get Romero for 40 odd mil, it's not happening. It's not happening. He'll be staying at the club, which I don't mind.
I don't.
Plus, we've got 3 good backs coming in anyway, and Vuskovic, Dorrington, and Phillips. You don't know. Davis is staying another year.
Yeah, but the reality, Romero is an 80 million pound plus player on the open market, and I don't think Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid actually have the funds to to service that type of transfer. But the reality is that let me ask you guys this question, right? Because you were talking about, like for instance, Adrian, you brought up the fact that number 9s are hard to come by. But is anybody going to pay $40 million for a striker who can't stay healthy? What's the going rate for a striker that can't see the field more than 10 times a season, right? That's been Richarlison over the last year and a half, 2 years. He can't stay healthy. You talk about Basuma. He's fallen so far from where he was at Brighton. Like, is there going to be any need for an absent-minded center defensive mid who can't defend? I mean, like, what's the going rate for those type of players? This team wants to sell these players, but whether or not there's going to be a team that's willing to take these players is another question.
If we were bringing in a player like that we thought was a bit suspect with injuries, but they're young, they might just, play through it and not have the same problems again, then obviously you'd think Levy would be shrewd enough to put add-on clauses in the contract regarding game time. I mean, you probably do it whether you win a trophy, a European trophy, blah, blah, blah. You'll put extra few million on a thing and things like that. So I think other clubs would do the same. I mean, Basuma's not exactly been injury prone, is he? So Richarlison has been. He's been made of glass since he's been with us. I don't know what his record was like at Watford or Everton. I don't know if he's injured a lot. So then you say, you would get people hesitant to come in unless there's something in a contract that covers the club. Look, if this guy breaks down, whatever, we want compensation, something like that, But there's so many add-ons with contracts now, I don't know.
The interesting thing is that you said that Saudi would pay $60 million for him, but the problem is Richarlison doesn't want to go to Saudi Arabia because the 2026 World Cup is still something that he wants to participate, so he wants to stay in the Premier League. The problem is he can't stay healthy. Is like, realistically, if Everton came calling, do you see Everton paying $40 million for Richarlison? I don't. Like, I think we'd be lucky if we got $20 million from Richarlison in the Premier League.
Well, I don't know what we owe on him to Everton. And we don't really know what the true price was. So apparently they said they wanted 70 million at the time or something like that. So
right.
We might have only paid for 50, 55 for him. There might have been add-ons which wouldn't have been met anyway, I don't think. So I don't see him going back, getting a striker. I mean, why aren't they in for Jonathan David, Everton then? If you're thinking like, but then you've got to pay the players at the end of his contract. If you're Jonathan David, you're sitting tight and you're going, "Oh, come. What's the current rate for me on transfer market? Oh, 40 million or whatever, 45 mil, right? I want a 30 million pound signing on fee, and I want the other 15 million in wages or some shit. You know what I mean? He's going to want play just because they're on a free.
Yeah, for sure.
On a free, that don't mean they're going to come that cheap. They'll come cheaper, but I mean, like, they won't be cheap because not if you're a decent player anyway. But if you're a desperate,
Right now, Jonathan David finds Inter Milan far more attractive than Tottenham Hotspur because at least going to Milan, you're going to be competing for the league title and also playing a Champions League. Yeah. As far as compared to Tottenham Hotspur, who might be in the Champions League next year, but are certainly not in a position to be challenging for the league. So if you're a guy like Jonathan David who's looking for a 4, possibly 5-year contract, you're not going to see the top of the league until year 4 or 5.
Well, if Madrid or Barcelona come in for him. Whether they'd want another player like that, you don't know. But he's
Ooh, that's a great question.
Just a harmless potato question. What do you expect the net spend to be in the summer?
The net
great
spend?
Question.
Yeah.
And he calls himself a harmless potato. That's a great question for a harmless potato.
Coming with the hard questions.
You need to split this up into spend and net spend.
Again, it's going to be between. It'll depend on whether you get Champions League qualification or not. I think if you don't, I think the avenue is, as Steve said or has alluded to, I think the reason that you're getting these noises out of the club about not having money to spend is because worst case scenario, if you lay that groundwork of not having money to spend and you don't qualify for Champions League, then you've got that to fall back on. Hey, we didn't get the windfall. We said it was going to be rough. La da 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 da. Then you've got the other, the other avenue where we win. And my hope is the board don't just turn around and go, phew, that was lucky, and then, continue as normal. My hope would be at that point, you get a little bit of the windfall of the qualification. I mean, obviously, you win the Europa League money. You don't get any windfall from qualifying. We've lost out on 30 million, 35 million in the league, I think, from where people thought we were going to be. So I'm going to say, my long-winded answer, I'm going to say 60 to 70 if we don't qualify, and maybe 150 to 180 if we do. But maybe that's me being deluded. I would like to think we qualify and the club go, right, we need to absolutely push on. But yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
As for the accounts being published on the loss, and if you look at the fact that we spent 700 million net, that's after sales, since the stadium opened, you're looking around the 120 million mark a season, roughly, averages out at.
Right.
I think you can knock a third off of that, because we last week we got no Europe, we've lost money on our account. So I think you're down to about 70, 80 million. That's without player sales, but that won't cut. But then you've got to pay the wages on these contracts down. So I think without any player sales, I think we could easily spend 60 million and put 15 million down on 4 players and bring them in. But then you're adding to your debt the next year, you see, because that goes on to our existing, what we already are on transfers, which is a lot. So,
I think the question for me isn't necessarily about net spend. Is it going to be about is the wage percentage going to rise this off season, right? So right now it's currently sitting at about 42%. Can that get above 45, pushing 50, right? Because when you look at where we're sit in terms of Premier League, we're actually down at the bottom when it comes to wage percentage, right? So we can talk about net spend all we want, but the question really is that wage sheet going to rise, which means we're actually getting a better quality player. And I don't think it rises above 45%. If I'm being honest, right? So we're probably going to be in that 45 to 80,000 pound mark per week type of player, which means in turn our net spend is probably going to be somewhere in that 100 to 130 range, probably.
Right. So,
maybe even a little bit lower.
We know we definitely need a number 9. Right, so if Kuna has got a 62 million buyout contract and you pay it, right, it's a question of how much the selling club want as a down payment. It still goes on their books, so but you pay it.
I think he's going to United.
Well, then you are looking at getting Gomez in on a free, Angel Gomez in.
Oh, Matthias Cunha.
He might go United.
I think he's going to United.
Well, we could end up getting a Delap, from Ipswich as their relegated.
I'd love Delap. I would love
Delap.
But then if you get Rory Delap is alluding to, or Steve is, that points to not going very much higher in your wage percentage ratio, because Liam Delap, as good a quality as he is, and I'd love to have him, he's not gonna command the 250, 300 grand a week that top players command, right?
He probably will be right around where Dominic Solanke is right now, and I believe Solanke is in that 80,000 pound per week mark, somewhere in that area. Yeah.
We don't know what's happening with Tell. You're certainly not paying 60 million for him, that's for sure.
No.
Although the more I see him, the more I like of him. But he's not going to be.
I'd take another loan. Yeah,
loans.
And if it has to be an obligation, I'd take another loan for an obligation.
This is what you might see us doing. If you're worried about how much, this is why I think we can still have a good window, because you can still get players on loan fees, and you ain't forking out or putting down great big down payments. I mean, we don't know if the loan for Tell was 5 mil or 10 mil. I don't think Levy's paying 10 mil to take a player on a season loan that you might not want to buy. I think it's more likely that Tell loan's more in a 3 to 5 mil job, something like that. But I don't know. I could be totally wrong. So
we
definitely need a number 9, right? We know that. if Romero went and we didn't get a centre back in, it wouldn't be. We'd like to, obviously you'd like to get a replacement. It wouldn't be super critical. We've got like 3 more centre backs coming in, and then you've got Danso, VDV, Dragerson, Davies as well. So there's still 7 centre backs. If Romero goes, left back, I've been crying out for last year. I wanted a left back, so another left back. Gray can cover on the right with Porro, as can Spence. You know, so we really need a left back, a number 9, and a holding midfielder, and that's going sort of bare bones. Now people can argue if you want another winger. Well, if we're going to bring another winger in, then let's get rid of one. I mean, you know, if we sell Solomon.
So you're absolutely right. We do need another 9, but I actually contend that we actually need 2 more wingers, one on the left, one on the right. And here's a name that I keep hearing that is being heavily linked with Spurs. And whether you guys like it or not, the reality is Manchester United is slashing the prices to actually get him off his books, and that's Marcus Rashford. And that name has been linked with Tottenham Hotspur now, and that's it. That rumor will not go away. And here's the weird part about Marcus Rashford. I actually like him as a player, just not at the price that initially Manchester United was asking for. But that asking price can get dropped down all the way to about $40 million, £40 million. And at £40 million, I would have no problem bringing in Marcus Rashford.
My problem.
It would have to be £40 million and half the wages, because we're not paying 350 grand a week.
Oh, well, without a doubt. Without a doubt, and he's not the player.
If he was banging the goals in for Man United, he'd have got the. This is my issue, you see, with our forward line, which has been pants. Even though we scored a lot of goals, no cohesion, no fluidity, no sort of understanding and link play between forwards. We just sort of power way up and sort of hope for the best that something happens and we score a goal. But when people start linking us, I mean, like how many times we've been linked with Jack Grealish? He's 31, for Christ's sake. The days of going for Grealish are over, right? That was going to happen. And then you've got to consider the fact that wingers, you bring wingers in, you need about 100 goals to win this Premier League. They've got to score goals. I mean, if Rashford was banging, we can have lots of players that look good. Where's the end product? I mean, at least Johnson, for all his faults, he scored 17 goals and got 3 assists. If Rashford is doing that, get him in.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I mean,
Mr. Focoff, you wash your mouth out with soap.
That was the best.
Calvert-Lewin fits perfectly.
He's made of glass as well.
Do you know what? It would be so Levy-like, and I don't know. Is it Levy's fault? Is it the club's fault? I don't know. But it would be so Spurs to sell Richarlison back to Everton, and then get Calvert-Lewin on a free.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin for free. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Big up,
bringing a Jamie Vardy.
Appreciate you, Gov. And then 40 million for Rashford. I mean, Son is gone. Could make sense though.
I don't necessarily mean that.
Earlier, I wanted to say hello to. Sorry, Nita, who just showed up. Good night, Nita. I hope you're well. Thank you for tuning in, love. Appreciate you.
I don't necessarily think that means the end for Son. I just think it means a reduced role for Son, which I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think that maybe it might just be.
Steve, when you're talking about extra wingers, I mean, what we're doing, we've got Mikey Moore on the left, you've got Sonny on the left, you've got Tell looks at the best on his left. On the right, you've got Odebert, right? You've got Johnson.
Yeah.
And do we want to have a look at Solomon in the in the pre-season because he's 20 goal contributions for Leeds? Is he?
By the way,
you've got Yang Min Hook. That's 7 wingers.
Yeah, but here's the thing: Matisse Tell, Wilson Odebert, in some context, Brendan Johnson, Mikey Moore, Yang Min Hook. All of these cats are going to be good wingers in due time once they develop. The problem is right now they're not developed, and you're asking young players who don't have it in their locker to carry an attack. It's not their fault. They're just not developed yet, right? They're 18, 19 years old. It just is what it is. They need more seasoning. They need more first team football. In the case of Mikey Moore, how many minutes has he gotten this year? It probably would have made sense for him to go on a loan and get first team football down in the Championship or League One, because at least he's playing, right? That's the biggest problem with me right now with this attack. You do have a Dominic Solanke, but you don't have competent wingers. At least for the next 2 seasons, it makes sense bringing in, say what you will about Marcus Rashford, but at least he puts a competent ball into the box. That's all I'm saying. It's like If the issue is goals, then you actually need to bring in quality service in order to facilitate a dominant.
The problem we have with Mikey Moore is, and for those of you listening, you cannot go on loan till you're 18 years of age, and he was 17 in
Fair
August.
enough.
He has to stay, right? And that's protection as well, and I think that's a good rule anyway. He won't even be able to go out on loan unless you get through to next August and the window's still open, and then he could go out on loan then. I don't think the club are going to send him out on loan. I mean, Chelsea offered 10 million for him, and we turned it down. Right? I mean, I really rate this player. I really do rate him. But again, the problem is you've got to put him on the side. If the team don't win, you put a youngster in. All the pressure's on the manager for putting the youngster in. Mm-hmm. So when he's got his little time against, was it AZ Alkmaar, when he did a bit of wing trickery on the left and all that?
Yeah, like
he was in under 21s. I think he's a generational talent. But like you said, he's not ready. And then you got, I would play him into getting ready, though. I would, because I think he's that.
Yeah, good. There's areas in which you can play Mikey Moore and he can get time and he can get experience. But, week in, week out at the Premier League, when you're facing Liverpool's, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, but against those rock solid defenses, it's like you're asking a 17-year-old, a raw 17-year-old, to continuously provide service and handle the responsibility and the pressure of playing at the Premier League against the best defenders in the world and help you score goals. It's like it's not going to play right now. It will play in like 3 years. It will play.
Right. He needs to develop, but what you do with these players, you give them 20 minutes, and then if they do well in 20 minutes, you give them half an hour. And then you keep developing them that way. They feel part of the squad and all that, and that's what you do. If you're going to start him, he did run out of steam, and he's 17.
No, I tell you what, I totally get you.
And was substituted,
I get your point, Adrian, but I think the scenario that you just painted there is a scenario whereby the first team is ticking over nicely, and we have the wherewithal after 70 minutes to already be 3-0 up, 4-0 up, just completely controlling the game. Our two midfielders are absolutely bossing things, and you can bring on Mikey Moore for 20 minutes without any kind of worry of losing a game pressure. Or him having, absolutely no pressure. And unfortunately, as a team, as a squad, we have not had that luxury of being able to do that for a very long time. Every time we've played these youngsters, or every time,
and that was supposed to
change.
That was supposed to be the ball in grey this year. That was supposed to be the play with ball in grey this year.
Because normally, what happens when you're bringing a youngster in, you're bringing him in when your team is doing well. Because it's the tipping point of all the injuries, and we've had no fluidity and cohesion with the team. It's been it's been a perfect storm.
I mean, I always harp on.
That's hindered him. But he said in his press conference, fair to him, he said, "Well, I said, what about the kids?" And he said, "Well, I'm already playing the kids," and he is when you go through the age of the squad, right? I just think that if we were doing better in the league, I think you would have seen Mikey Moore get more minutes, because you'd been able to bring him on. If you're winning a game 3 or 4 minutes, 4-0 with 20 minutes to go, that's when you can bring them on and blood them properly. Not then look around, what'd you play him? He was crap. You know what I mean? So
we're absolutely shocking, and we've not been able to do it. I harp on about the United teams that used to be able to. The one thing about Ferguson, love him or hate him, he used to perfectly sprinkle in the youth. They used to go for the jugular. They'd be 2-3 goals to the good. They'd be absolutely ploughing through teams, and then you'd get, an 18-year-old Gary Neville suddenly sprinkled in.
Look how long it takes. I mean, you look at a player I really love at Man City, probably ain't hit his heights of last season. Phil Foden. How long did it take him to break into that side? When Sancho was there and he left, I mean, he went from there to Dortmund to Man United and all that. Hasn't quite hit it off for him. Only 3% of academy players make it as regular members of their first team 25-man squad, let alone become a regular starter in their teams. And then you've got to say, well, hang on, now if you break that 3% down, is that player likely to more make it in a 25-man squad at Brighton, Brentford, Fulham, Crystal Palace, or Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool? It's going to be a bigger drop-off at Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea, because Chelsea got about 50 players anyway, right? Yeah. So you've really got to show talent.
Mason Greenwood, huh?
Mr. Yeah, we're going to go back
He's
to
a
again.
good finisher.
Mr. Fokoff, Solomon deal option to buy. I just had a little Google. It's just a straight up loan. But as far as the details,
Leeds wants to bring him back.
Leeds want to bring him back. Leeds are keen. Tottenham are reportedly open to selling. And Solomon has openly stated he enjoys playing for and living in Leeds. So I think from all parties concerned, I would think that's a done deal. And probably half decent business, given that he was, I don't know what Shakhtar are going to make of it. I do feel kind of bad for them the way that worked out. Audio, how do you feel about a move for Mason Greenwood having a great season? Do you know what? I'm all about redemption and giving people the opportunity to redeem themselves. I don't know the ins and outs of that case, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if he's been punished, if there was a reason to punish, what's gone on. I personally,
he beat his girlfriend up. She was on audio tape on the phone to the police.
Right.
Now, and you could tell she was in a real distressed state, and they must have come. What happens with a lot of these footballers, because they've got all this, they just buy it all off.
I heard that Mason Greenwood was involved in an SA case. And here's the thing, right? It all depends on where you're at morally. That being said, his profession is being a footballer, and so my question to you is: has he been a good teammate this season, and has he been a good citizen? Because those two things kind of go hand in hand. So if he's actually learned his lesson, he's in the corner as a human being, as a man.
You're still going to have, because it's not. I mean, there should always be criminals should have a chance to rehabilitate themselves, but you'll always have a section of fan base, and we know what it's like with political sensitivity, right?
Sure.
Especially around Tottenham, anyway. So there would be a group. I don't know how big. Might be a big group that wouldn't want a player like Mason Greenwood at our football club. Remember, we didn't want Gattuso as a manager.
Yeah.
Because
I get it.
More of a right wing.
Absolutely. I want my cake and eat it too. I believe in redemption. I hope, I want him to not have to be tarnished with that if he's made his peace with things. But I don't really want him anywhere near my club from a.
Is he on loan out of France? He may well go back to Man United if he's on loan.
I thought they cancelled his contract. I'm not sure.
I thought they cancelled his contract.
But yeah, it is a shame because he was a serious talent.
Oh, he's a really good finisher.
Not a great
he's
finisher.
A better finisher than Rashford.
But then he says, "Don't think you can touch Greenwood with a stick unless you're hitting him with it."
Yeah,
brilliant.
True, mate.
And then he said he married the girl. I mean, you say married, some others say paid off, but we shall see.
Yeah.
Big up.
We're even linked with Victor Boniface. Well.
Right, seems like a bit of a 4-star, and I don't think that's a hotel. Brilliant.
This is it. See, you got to take
18 goals and 31 appearances this year, huh?
It's sorting a week from the chaff, isn't it, at this time of the season? Because now the press, they can't bash us for their league form because it's done and dusted, and we've got 1 foot in a final of cup. So now you're getting all these manager links, the Paratici links, and the transfer links, and they're not going to go away. And we don't even know if Paratici's come. Also, another story, but Milan are back in for him now, or whatever, or something like that.
Paratici
other legal problems involved, or whatever. So, I mean, these stories are just going to keep running and running, aren't they? All this speculation.
Well, I heard that Paratici officially rejected Milan's bid for his services. And he's already agreed to terms with Tottenham. But I hear what you're saying. The thing about it is, it's like, I don't like it at this point. Here's the weird part about Tottenham Hotspur right now. We're such at a crossroads as a club. The fan base is split right down the middle because of a lightning rod of a head coach. The league form has been absolutely awful, but we have this one little thing that could galvanize this fan base and have the entire Tottenham Nation moving in one direction. I think the last thing that you want to do is bring in a dude like Mason Greenwood. That would actually just be a stick of dynamite. I think it would just be just
look,
nuts.
Paratici's going to come in, yeah. Well, then who's going to be top dog out of him and Vinay Venkatesham?
I think Vinay's top, and then he's in charge of Paratici, and then Paratici's in charge above Ange, right?
Scouting directors, and absolutely.
I think so.
And I would assume that Paratici wants to bring in his deputies in that front office, have his own scouting, have his own director of scouting that is going to be able to facilitate the areas of the globe in which he wants to bring players in. But that being said, I would also assume he's going to want to appoint his own manager as well.
Well, we've got two scouts mainly. You've got Rob McKenzie, who's the chief scout. Then you've got Max Legger, who we got off of Bayern Munich. He's the first team scout. So they've got different names. So Leggett's probably the one when they do all their data on a player and watch the view videos. Leggett must be the one that goes out and has a look at them. Unless we've got a team of scouts. We've probably got other scouts abroad, but there won't be won't be loads of them. A lot of them's done it's done in America. A lot of it first, it's like all the Moneyball and the facts surrounding Moneyball, and then you go and look at the player. I think that's where it works now. Unless you just really know the Premier League and it's the Premier League plan, who's good enough for you.
Right.
But
the issue with Lang was that he was tossed out of Aston Villa because he was in over his head with Villa. And he was cast aside only to come to Tottenham Hotspur. But the interesting thing about it is he's supposed to be like this youth whisperer. He's able to sell a club to young kids and get them through the door. But all that went out the window for me during the winter transfer window when he couldn't get Matisse Tell to sign on the dotted line. As a matter of fact,
Levy had to finish that deal off. But
he had Levy come in and he rejected Levy, and it took Ange Postecoglou to get on the phone to sell it. But that being said, it's like as soon as the dude that you hired that's known for youth and bringing in youth who can't get you through the door, that was a seminal moment for me with Johan Lang, and that should have been the he probably.
I think he was also recommended by Milo Jedinak, who was the Australian captain under Poch when he was running the Socceroos, and I'm not sure about
Socceroos.
Australia, Socceroos.
Yeah.
I know the greatest name in global football.
Yeah,
you said.
I don't know if all these stories around Lang
are
true or not, because
he met Ange.
Seems like every stage this season the fan base has picked up a club and bashed every aspect of this football club, apart from the academy, right? They've bashed it all, right? And
but
what about him? It's just like a little war of attrition, trying to grind down and hope that Levy goes. And I'd like new owners, but I don't see him going, and so, but if Langer goes, who cares? I don't know what he's done or what he hasn't done. I know that we've shifted over 30 odd players during Langer's second season here. I know some of those players will be just loan players from the academy. But there's a lot of deadwood gone out. Now, I don't know how much Langer was involved in that, but he's so-called director of football, so he should have a say in all of those being moved on. But how much he's involved in loan contracts and things like that, he should be able to say that as well or agreed or put it to the board. Yeah, we can get 2 mil to loan him out to them and 2 mil, or they'll pay his wages, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how it quite all works out. Because we're not given... We don't know. So we'll bash Langer because there's no transparency around him and what he does. Scott Munn was he come from that City Corp business. He was involved with Australia back in the past, so you probably knew Ange from back in the days there. But that's mainly business and all that. He was more like another Wine coming in who was going to get us a naming rights deal, but we skipped on the naming rights deal because the name of the stadium, the brand, got out at the world much better just through NFL and people knowing that NFL games are played at Spurs, and also. We can't have a name. We can do the foundations for a name and right deal, but we can't do one till 2028 because 2028 we're hosting Euro games.
The Euros, yeah.
So after that we can do a naming rights deal, but you're not allowed to under UEFA rules because you're hosting Euro games at the stadium. So it doesn't mean you can't do the. They may even have one in situ for a couple of years' time.
Mm-hmm.
With someone, but they've got 2 years to crack a deal now, and I get a critique as well. So we've gone all these years without probably bringing in at least another 15 million a year where we ain't got this naming rights deal. That might be about 100 million we've lost out on. Well, the stadium's been up since 2019, so you got 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, so 6 years.
But but there's no way of kind of unless there is, I don't know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that there's any way of being able to work out how much money has been made off of the back of it just being called the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, right? Like, I mean, people mention the fact that it's on the Madden games and stuff like that, and you've got this huge American audience. So even just in merchandise and stuff like that, I mean, I just don't know how you would. I mean, surely there's got to be an amount of money.
Right, and when you're noticeable in the public eye, then you attract more sponsors and businessmen. Imagine if Elon Musk come to Spurs tomorrow and wanted to name it the SpaceX Stadium because it looks like a spaceship. He's involved with hundreds of companies, and those companies have got hundreds of other partners. They'd all want to sponsor Spurs for something because they all want to stick together. So then you get loads more coming in, and so even when you've got Beyonce there or all these film singers that I don't know of because they're well below my generation, well above my generation, rather not below it.
Big up, Adrian, just a big shout to El Tel in the chat. It's a question: how real are the Paratici Xavi rumours? I've not heard much about the Xavi rumours, but I am looking at I just googled the Paratici thing again, and I'm looking at it on my phone. And as of 11, 12 hours ago, people are pretty much saying that it's a done deal, and that's like coming from sort of TalkSport, Yahoo Sports, TRB. I mean, it looks like it's sort of signed. So, but yeah, the Xavi stuff, I'm not sure. I mean, it's probably. I mean, there's an argument that it's a very good demographic in terms of the football team, the age. He's obviously worked with a lot of players. I mean, if we're going to go down that route, then I guess I'm not 100% opposed to it, but. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're a bit of a ways from changing it. I think we're a little bit of a ways from changing the coach at the moment. Just simply, well, if we lose this, we're probably not. But if we win it, I just don't know.
Yeah, that's the real question.
I don't know how good it looks. They might have him ready and waiting in the wings. I mean, I think I mentioned it yesterday. It might be a bit of an Eric Ten Hag vibe where. The kind of the writing's on the wall, but he's won a cup, so you need to give him a little bit. He's not walking away because he wants the privilege of being able to take Tottenham to a Champions League game at the very least. I think I genuinely believe he'll get the beginning of the next season. Whether we're walking into that scenario or not, I don't know. But it's a possibility.
It's when he starts at the end of June, when his ban's over, and how much undercover work can he do regards getting a manager in before then. I in a worst case scenario for a lot of protest fans out there, and stays because Paratici can't get a manager in.
Right.
And it's also the transfer window, right? And it's because we really need to, and we get 1 foot. We've got 1 foot in the final. We get to the final. Now you go into the 21st of May. That's a Wednesday, isn't it? So you got the final on the 21st of May, and the season ends about a week later.
And I just don't see. I mean, I just don't buy this. He can't get his guys, or he can't talk to his guys. Everybody talks off the record.
Yeah,
everybody talks to somebody who talks to somebody. Just because he might not directly be able to talk to his guy right this second. There's, there's ways around it.
Yeah, for sure. Paratici is 100%. I was going to say, Paratici is 100% a done deal. Except, Xavi. The question whether or not is whether or not Paratici wants to dip back into the Italian market for a coach, because I know that Inzaghi. There's also those rumors as well too. So, so the question though is. Again, I'm kind of with Drew. It's like if Ange Postecoglou finishes this off and wins Europa League, how hard is it going to be to sack a dude that just gave you your first who gave your first European trophy since '84? You know what I mean? Like that's I don't know how you can do that, but I don't know. But that being said, Paratici didn't really even want to work with wasn't really a fan of the hiring of Ange Postecoglou to begin with anyway. So, maybe there is something to be there. Maybe there's something to that, to the point where it's like, thank you for the trophy. You certainly do. You certainly do win trophies in your second season. Have a good one.
Right.
Well,
could be.
This is the thing, you see. If we get the Champions, again, it's like winning the Europa League, getting the Champions League football, then you might get someone like Xavi come. I mean, I'll be happy to take Paratici back. When I've looked at the 12 or 13 managers we've been linked with, don't know much about Motta, don't know much about Inzaghi, right? The ones being linked over here, I'm not inspired. When we used to get managers coming that had the Spurs DNA in their blood, even the likes of Bodo and Ardiles, you knew what you were getting. These were innovative people, whether they failed or not. Otto managed the England side. He didn't do too bad with Chelsea and all that. You had Nicholson, Birkinshaw, you had Venables, you had Yol, you had Redknapp, right? These were football people, real football people, and they were innovative as well, and they took risks, and the football was good under them. And all these now, even the managers are looking as robotic as the football we're watching. Whole shit football. You know what I mean?
I mean, you say that, you bring up a great point, because I think where there's a lack of real great number 9, well, I think there's a real lack of great world-class players nowadays, but a great lack of world-class number 9s. I think there's a great lack of coaches. I mean, you look over in Spain, you've got Hansi Flick doing bits at Barcelona. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti probably coming to the end of his tenure at Real Madrid, and the likelihood is that Alonso probably takes over Real Madrid from Leverkusen. But other than
Ancelotti
that,
takes over Brazil.
I think that the argument is that La Liga is kind of from the second, third place down. I mean, obviously Simeone, he's got his way of playing football, but after that, it's kind of a muchness. I mean, look at Bilbao; they're fourth, and they got turned over by United last night. So, and then you go to France, you've got obviously Luis Enrique at PSG, and then really nothing else of crazy outstanding. I mean, maybe Will Still is maybe raising some eyebrows, I guess. But then you go over to Italy. I mean, no, I'm pretty sure nobody wants Conte back. I mean, Inzaghi obviously doing very well. Inzaghi is at Inter, right? Inzaghi obviously doing really well there. But then Italians, I don't necessarily know if they translate very well to the Premier League, bar a couple of exceptions. So there's not a great dearth of amazing managers.
My fear is, with best crop of youngsters with her head at the club out on loan, you get a new manager in that's more interested in saving his arse than he's about playing young players. So that's a concern. The other concern is, back in the day of Spurs, decades ago, our DNA was fast, attractive, attacking football. That should be the DNA of the club, no matter what manager's coming in. He should fit that DNA. If the manager don't fit the DNA, you don't bring him in. You don't bring in a Mourinho. You know he's going to leave a train wreck. You don't bring Conte in. He'd spend you into bankruptcy and blame you for not spending money on players. You don't bring them in. They're not the right fit, right?
Well, is this why, Adrian? Is this why the ideal scenario potentially, and let me ask you this, Steve, is potentially the ideal scenario for this to work for one more year and then have the prodigal son return?
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point. And I was going to add to that.
And I know you've got to go. Sorry, I know you've got to go, Steve. So we'll finish you off on this, mate.
Yeah, and you bring up an interesting point where some of the top clubs are probably going to be shoo-ins for some of the brightest names, and outside of those, you have names that some of them are attractive, but for the most part, there's not a dearth of coaching talent out there that necessarily fits it, which is why we've been linked with retreads. Such as Jose Mourinho, his contract is coming up with Fenerbahce. There is rumor that he wants to return to Tottenham Hotspur, and then you of course have the prodigal son, Mauricio Pochettino, who's currently with the U.S. men's national team. And the question is whether or not you're going to pay the $20 million release clause to bring Pochettino back, or are you going to wait an extra season because he will be available for free at the end of the 2026 World Cup? Right. So are you going to in the interim keep Ange Postecoglou? That's the first one, and then Poch can get us. That's funny. Or
brilliant.
Or are you going to go with a Scotty Parker, or give him 1 year? Give one of these guys 1 year to see if improve the team, knowing damn well that Pochettino is going to be right around the corner, right? So I like in those kind of scenarios, it's like if you're going to hand out a 3-year deal, you want to make sure that that coach is going to be around for those 3 years. And not necessarily just bait and switch after one season and bring back Pochettino. You might as well just bring back Pochettino. But that being said, it's like
ex-coach is at Ipswich, McKenna.
Yeah.
But our other ex-coach won the championship with Birmingham, wasn't it, or the league they're in? I forget.
Scotty Parker
and
failed
you look
twice
at
these
young coaches now. Alonso look as though he's going to move on. You've got Vincent Kompany will probably eventually end up at Barcelona or Real Madrid the way he's going. That's because what you've alluded to, right? A lot of these other older managers, they just don't. You go, meh, what's so special about these? I'll support whoever comes in because I do that for every manager and player while they're at the club. But I mean, I'm not excited.
Like if you're going to go down the 1 year route, you might as well get Marco Silva from Fulham, because at least he has that on his CV where he gets teams punching above their weight. I mean, look at what he's doing with Fulham this year. And Fulham is a team full of retread players that were outcast from their teams, and he's gotten them to punch above their weight. I mean, Raul Jimenez is 35, and he's got 20. He's combined 20 goal opportunities this year, and he's turned Anthony Robinson into one of the best left backs in the Premier League. Just imagine the work that he could do with this team. So if you're going to go down that route, you might as well get the best coach in the Premier League that is going to be able to punch above his weight for at least a year.
And we should be using ex-Spurs players that are legends. I mean, even if they're not manager material or don't want to be managers. I mean, someone like Glenn Hoddle with all his experience, right? Who took somebody. He should be brought in a couple days ago. He doesn't even have to be a coach, but just as a consultant, if he hasn't got coaching badges. Mind you, he's managed, so maybe he has got coaching badges. I don't know. Maybe
I just think there's a too many cooks vibe. I just think you don't want the coach being undermined and stuff. And if you bring in a coach and he's having to go to Glenn Hoddle to get some advice on a Tuesday morning, I'm not with it. It doesn't.
A couple days ago, somebody mentioned to me a couple days ago that if we're looking to bridge a gap for a year to the eventual return of Mauricio Pochettino, why not just bring back Harry Redknapp? And I'm like, Harry Redknapp in today's football with this current situation going on at the club, I don't necessarily think that would be something that would interest Harry Redknapp to come, at his age, to come back to coach for a season. I don't think it would necessarily fit. And as a matter of fact, I know a lot of people give Ange Postecoglou a lot of grief and talking about how, if he comes back next year, we're going to get relegated. I don't know, man. For a guy like Harry Redknapp.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? As I think we've said, we pointed out earlier, there's just so many ramifications to the game on Thursday. I mean, really, as we've said, there's going to be so many changes for West Ham, and I think obviously we'll wrap up here. So many changes for West Ham. I'm not expecting much. If we go there, I'd just like to see, I think I mentioned it last night, I'd just like to see, give the youth a run out, give some youngsters, and just play for the badge and just put in a performance. Don't let your head go down. Take on your man, give it a go. And that's, as a fan base, if we see that, then that's really all we can ask for. But I'll get your predictions just real quick for the game on Sunday. Adrian, what do you think it's going to be?
We're going to set up defensively. I'm going for a 1-1.
All right. Steve?
I think we're going to see 8+ changes, and I'm going for a 3-1 loss to West Ham.
Crikey. I will bite your hand off for 1-1. Unfortunately, I think, Steve, you may be lurking somewhere within the realms of more realistic of a time, but we shall see. Stranger things have happened.
Would I like for them to win? Yeah, of course. I want them to win.
No, absolutely. No, yeah. Fair play. I know that. Give your channel a quick plug before you have to shoot off.
Yeah, you can find me over at Stateside Footy. The link is right there at the bottom of the screen. Tomorrow morning, we have Dave Harris from the Irish Hotspur joining us to talk a little bit about some of the financial ramifications of the upcoming window, how that plays into not only the summer transfer window, but the appointment of the new coach, because all of that's coming out of the same fund. and whether or not that's going to have potential impacts on what we can and what we can't do in the summer window. We are also talking a little bit about the second leg as well too. So it's definitely going to be a good show with Dave from the Irish Hotspur. Drew, you're more than welcome to show up if you want to take part in that.
Appreciate it. What time is that kicking off?
7 a.m. Eastern time.
Awesome. And then what else? Anything?
And then tomorrow night we have the MLS live stream, Inter Miami versus the New York Red Bulls. I know I'm not trying to make this a Red Bull channel, but it just seems that it just fell right again this week. But it's going to be our first opportunity to take a look at Leo Messi in Inter Miami in that stacked squad in the Eastern Conference. And then we have the pre-match build-up for Spurs versus West Ham. And then we have the watch-along and, of course, the final score. And then actually, I think tomorrow we're also doing a members only as well too. Awesome. So that's going to be really awesome on THFC TWD. Not to be confused with Spurs Diehards TTID. Give them a like and subscribe. Definitely do that.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate
1-1, but I'd really like us to go there, stink the place out, and get a 0-0.
Yeah, when I'm predicting a 3-1 loss, I can't necessarily then turn around and ask people to like and subscribe my videos because it's like, well, wait a second. It's like, do you want me to ham it up and be like 7-0 Spurs? It's like, yeah.
Not with the
play. Adrian, I think we're gonna have to. I didn't realise the time. We're gonna have to wrap it up here quickly. So you want to give the channel one last plug and thank our
we've got 76 of you viewing us. I want to thank all of those you in the chat for your comments. We always like your comments and your questions as well. I want to thank all those viewing us on XCOM as well. Big up to all those who could bother to watch us on playback. We do have a Facebook group with 14,500 members. There's about 3,000 active or 3,500 active each month when I look at the computer-generated insights for that. And we've got a page, which is growing very slowly. It's only been started recently, but it's got just under 300 on the page. I think the videos go out live on there as well. So I want to thank you. And if you can, out of that 75, if you could just go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel, it really helps us with the algorithm. And like it says below, if you can smash the like button, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, that would really help us to grow. We've been going 10 months, but we're doing fine. But the more growth, the better. So thank you all again. Thank all the guests again.
Thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Alan from earlier, Mr. Rakdos Madness. Thank you to Steve, as always. And the usual suspects, as I say in the chat. There are too many of you to mention, but we really do appreciate you always dropping in, leaving a comment. We do try and get around to questions, and we do try and aim the questions as
I love Angelo Tyro. I love Angelo Tyro in the chat who's saying Aloisi with 2 goals tomorrow or on Sunday. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
Nice
one other thing
guys,
is
on that note,
the show on Sunday with Ian Meth. I'll be hosting Sunday. I'm usually on with him. That'll be on at 2100 UK time. And our Tuesday show goes out at 2100 UK time. That'll probably be post West Ham and previewing our away game with Bodo again. So the excitement will be mounting when we get through to that game. So we do 3 shows a week. And we stick to the same times and days so as you get used to when you can find us if you're interested in us. So thanks to everyone again. I cannot thank you enough for your support.
Can't thank you enough. It's awesome. Really appreciate everyone listening in. And hopefully I will be here next week and we will be discussing what I'll be wearing for the final. So on that note, have a good night, everybody. Have a good morning. Have a good day. And we will see you soon. Take care. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.